considered all of the evidence, you have in your minds an abiding conviction to a moral certainty that the charge is true. When we refer to moral certainty, we mean the highest degree of certainty possible in matters relating to human affairs, based solely on the evidence that has been put before you in this case. I have told you that every person is presumed to be innocent unless and until he or she is proved guilty, and that the burden of proof is on the Commonwealth. If you evaluate all the evidence and you still have a reasonable doubt remaining, the defendant is entitled to the benefit of that doubt and must be acquitted. It is not enough for the Commonwealth to establish a probability, even a strong probability, that the defendant is more likely to be guilty than not guilty. That is not enough. Instead, the evidence must convince you of the defendant's guilt to a reasonable and moral certainty, a certainty that convinces your understanding and satisfies your reason and judgment as jurors who are sworn to act conscientiously on the evidence. This is what we mean by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. How do you decide whether the Commonwealth has proven that each element of an indictment is true beyond a reasonable doubt? Let's talk about the roles we all have. First, the function of the jury. You are the most important people in this room. It all begins and ends with your function. You will determine the facts in this case, and that is your job and yours alone. You are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts. If there are any conflicts in the testimony, it is your job to resolve those conflicts if you can do so. Once you determine the facts, it is your duty to apply those facts to the law as I explain it to you, and to determine whether the Commonwealth has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. You must decide the facts solely and entirely on the evidence as you have seen, heard in this courtroom, and on nothing else. No prejudice, no bias, no fear, no favor. You must not be swayed by personal likes or dislikes. Your deliberations are no place for emotion, sympathy, passion, or prejudice. The Commonwealth and Karen Reed have a right to have the case judged by fair and impartial jurors. All parties who come before the court stand as equals before you. Therefore, your verdicts must be based on the law as I'm giving it to you, and on the evidence and the facts that you find, and nothing else. You cannot allow yourselves to be influenced by any personal feelings you may have about the nature of the crimes with which Ms. Reed has been charged or the consequences of your verdict. Just the cool, reflective, and impartial sifting of the evidence so that here in this courtroom, justice may be done. Your focus is on the evidence. I am the judge of the law. My job is to teach you the law that you must follow in the case. However, I have no opinion about how you should decide this case. You should not consider anything I have said or done during this trial as reflecting any opinion by me about how you should decide this case. If you believe I have an opinion about the facts of this case, you must disregard it. You must decide this case based solely on your evaluation of the evidence. The arguments of the lawyers are not evidence. They are not witnesses. If a lawyer during argument made a mistake in summarizing the evidence or argued something not supported by the evidence, you must disregard it. It is the jury's collective memory of the evidence that controls the matter. Lawyers' objections are a proper part of the court procedure and are not part of the evidence. So don't hold it against the lawyers or their client if they made objections, motions, or other requests. They're simply doing their job during the trial. There was testimony at trial that the lawyers interviewed witnesses when preparing for the trial. You may not draw any unfavorable inferences solely from that fact. There is nothing improper about conducting such interviews. On the contrary, the lawyers are obliged to prepare their case as thoroughly as possible and may interview witnesses. The verdict must be based only on the evidence and the jury's collective reasoning applied to the evidence in a fair and impartial manner. The extent to which you believe or disbelieve a witness or what an exhibit purports to show, and the importance to give any testimony or other evidence is entirely up to your own good judgment. The evidence consists of the testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits that were.
Looking for high-quality meat and seafood that fits with your lifestyle? This is a super convenient way to get high-quality meat and seafood delivered right to your door. They have tons of options to choose from, like 100% grass-fed beef, free
that certain things are true. Therefore, you must accept those things as true. There are some things you have heard about that have not been introduced into evidence, such as previous testimony of witnesses, police reports, autopsy and accident reconstruction reports, and perhaps other reports. You may naturally wonder why neither side has introduced any of them into evidence. The answer is that under our rules of evidence, such reports usually may not be admitted, although the parties may refer to them for certain limited purposes while questioning witnesses. So you should not hold it against any party that you do not have them, and neither should you speculate on what they may or may not contain. Similarly, as you review the exhibits, you may find that some information has been removed because it is not relevant. Please ignore that and don't try to guess what may have been removed from there. Any information that you may have read, heard, or seen about the case outside of the courtroom is not evidence. My instructions to you and any other comments I made, the lawyer's opening and closing statements and any comments they made, are not evidence. If the lawyers or I made any comments during the trial, those comments are not evidence, and you must base your verdict only upon the evidence. In an interaction between a lawyer and a witness, you may consider only the witness's testimony as evidence. Answers that I struck from the record and told you to disregard are not evidence. Only the testimony of the witness, that is, their answers to the questions and the exhibits, are evidence. Finally, on this topic, if one of the lawyers or I refer to some part of the evidence and that does not coincide with your own recollection, it is your collective recollection which you are to follow in your deliberations. It is important to remind you folks that the verdict cannot be based on emotional reaction or sympathy for any person or side of this case. Certain of the testimony and exhibits may have provoked an emotional reaction in all of us. You may feel sympathy for the family of Mr. O'Keefe, and you may feel sympathy for the defendant as she sits here in the courtroom. But your job is to decide the case without bias, fear, sympathy, or favor, to view the evidence with a certain clinical detachment, and to decide the case based solely on the evidence and the application of the law. I have allowed you folks to take notes during the trial if you chose, and you may refer to those notes during your deliberations. But remember, they are not evidence or a substitute for the evidence and your recollection. They are for your personal use. Please do not share them with the other jurors. Please consider the evidence as a whole. Do not make up your mind about what the verdict should be until after you've gone to the jury room to decide the case and you and your fellow jurors have discussed the evidence. Keep an open mind until then. For each indictment, you must decide whether the Commonwealth has proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of that specific charge. Your decision as to each charge must be unanimous, meaning that all 12 deliberating jurors must agree. You will receive one verdict slip for each indictment. When all 12 jurors agree on the verdict for a particular indictment, the foreperson should check off that verdict and then sign and date the slip in ink. For each charge, if you all agree that the Commonwealth has proved every element of the charge beyond a reasonable doubt, then you should find Ms. Reed guilty of that charge. On the other hand, if you all agree that the Commonwealth did not prove one or more elements of a particular charge beyond a reasonable doubt, then your verdict must be not guilty on that charge. You'll remember that we took a view in this case. It seems like a very long time ago, but we took a view in this case. The purpose of the view was to help you better understand the evidence that you heard during the trial and to help you appreciate the locations and their surroundings. Your responsibility in the view was to see the places, observe them carefully, and remember what you saw. The view is part of this case. You may use and consider the observations that you made while on the view in your deliberations in reaching a verdict. The same is true about the demonstration we saw from the witness stand. The demonstration was done simply to help you understand the evidence, and you may consider it in your deliberations. It is the jury's job to earnestly seek the truth of the matter. In doing that, the jury must decide questions of credibility and reliability. The jury must decide how truthful or reliable or convincing any part of the evidence is. You should evaluate the testimony of a police officer in the same way you would evaluate anyone else's testimony. You must not automatically believe or disbelieve a witness just because the person is a police officer. In deciding questions of credibility and reliability, you may rely on your common sense and reasoning powers and your life experiences. Consider a witness's testimony in the context of all the other evidence, not in isolation. You may consider the demeanor, candor, and appearance of the witness in testifying. Who was the witness? What relationship did they have to the case, to the other witnesses or parties? Did the witness have any bias, reason, or motive to give false or shaded testimony? If so, you may consider that bias or motive in your deliberations and ultimately as to whether or not it impacts the credibility of the witnesses and the assessment of the evidence presented. Is the witness someone likely to give an honest and impartial account? Consider not just whether the witness was honest, but also whether the witness's testimony was accurate and reliable or honestly mistaken. A prior statement by a witness, if inconsistent with his or her trial testimony in any way, may be considered on the witness's credibility and reliability, and only for this purpose. Also, if there has been a suggestion that a witness recently contrived their testimony, you may take into account any earlier statement the witness made which was consistent with their present testimony.
Oh, Auntie Bev is literally killing me. Oh, yeah, the reading. Oh, Bev, this is like when someone explains the rules of golf to me when I'm playing it. Like, okay, if the ball goes out of bounds, you must re-hit again and take a stroke. Thank you, Bev. We all know what's going on here.
The prior statement, you should consider 3 questions. First, whether the omitted test or other actions were standard procedure or steps that would otherwise normally be taken under the circumstances. Second, whether the omitted tests or actions could reasonably have been expected to lead to significant evidence of the defendant's guilt or innocence. And third, whether the evidence provides a reasonable and adequate explanation for the omission of the test or other actions. If you find that any omissions in the investigation were significant and not adequately explained, you may consider whether the omissions tend to affect the quality, reliability, or credibility of the evidence presented by the Commonwealth. All of these considerations involve factual determinations that are entirely up to you. And you are free to give this matter whatever weight, if any, you deem appropriate based on all the circumstances. During the trial, I gave you some instructions on how you were to consider some of the evidence you heard, and importantly, how you are not to consider the evidence. I'm going to summarize those limiting instructions here. Ms. Reed is not charged with committing any crime other than the charges contained in the indictments. You've heard evidence about interactions that Ms. Reed may have had with Mr. O'Keefe in Aruba and others in Aruba. The evidence was admitted solely for your consideration as evidence of the nature of the defendant's relationship with Mr. O'Keefe and whether it goes to her knowledge or intent or motive on January 29, 2022. You may not consider the evidence as proof that she has a criminal personality or bad character. You may not take the defendant's prior acts as a substitute for proof that the defendant committed the crimes charged here, or to conclude that if she committed the acts in Aruba, she must have committed the offenses with which she is charged here. You can only use the evidence for the limited purpose of how it goes to the defendant's state of mind, motive, and the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe. Before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it is more likely true than not that the persons who authored the electronic communications were in fact John O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, Michael Proctor, Brian Higgins, or others alleged to have authored or created them. If you do not find it is more likely true than not that the persons alleged to have authored or transmitted or created the communications were the persons alleged to have done so, then you may not consider the electronic communication in deciding the case. Photographs have been entered into evidence, and in some instances, those photographs will be inside an envelope when they go back to you to the deliberation room. The photographs may be graphic and unpleasant. As I told you when you first saw them, your verdict must not in any way be influenced by the fact that these photographs may be graphic or unpleasant. The defendant is entitled to a verdict based solely on the evidence and not one based on pity or sympathy. Consider a photograph only as it may show a medical condition, the nature of the injuries, or the details of the incident itself. You heard evidence of statements made by John O'Keefe. These statements were admitted only for a limited purpose of establishing John O'Keefe's state of mind. You are not to consider this testimony as proof that the defendant has bad character or propensity to commit crimes. The testimony of witnesses recounting conversations with Mr. O'Keefe or messages the defendant's phone received from him can only be used as they go to the defendant's motive or intent on January 29th, and only if you find that Ms. Reed was aware of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind at the time of the crime and would be likely to respond to it. There need not be direct evidence that the defendant learned of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind, so long as you can reasonably infer from the evidence that she did learn of it. Now, you have heard testimony about statements allegedly made by Ms. Reed. Before you may consider any such statement, you're going to have to make a preliminary determination whether it can be considered as evidence or not, and for what purpose it may be used. You may not consider any such statement in your deliberations for the truth of any such statement unless, from all of the evidence in the case, the Commonwealth has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant made the statement that she's alleged to have made and that she made it voluntarily, freely, and rationally. In determining whether...
With Framer, the things you design become real.
Surrounding circumstances. You may consider any evidence you have heard about the defendant's physical and mental condition, her intelligence, age, education, and experience. Your decision does not turn on any one factor. You must consider the totality of the circumstances. Some testimony came from witnesses who saw or heard something. Some witnesses also told you about opinions or conclusions they reached based on some special training or experience. But special training or...
Bev, you are killing me, sweetheart. I got to say it, Bev. I got to stop for a minute here, and I just got to say, if you did books on tape, bedtime stories, it would be actually a very, very lucrative business for you, because in the first sentence, I would be out cold, all right? What Ambien cannot do, you can do instantly. Darling, this is brutal, all right? Now get to it. Everybody knows what they need to do. In fact, every person on that jury knows exactly what they think and what they feel. Now, for the love of God, I'm going back to live here because I can't take it.
Opinion
Right?
based on the hypothetical, but only if, after careful consideration, you find that all the facts in the hypothetical were true. Remember that witnesses, even those with special training or experience, do not decide cases. Juries do. It is up to you whether to accept or reject, in whole or in part, any opinion or conclusion that a witness offered during the trial. You have the same powers with respect to the exhibits that you do with respect to the witnesses. Look them over and decide the weight, that is the value, that they deserve to receive in helping you resolve the case as you make your ultimate judgment about whether the Commonwealth has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. You do not have to believe something simply because it's written on a piece of paper or appears in a photograph. You are not, of course, required to disbelieve it because it appears there. You decide whether to believe what an exhibit purports to show and how much weight, if any, to give the exhibit. Certain charts and summaries not admitted into evidence have been shown to you as testimonial aids intended to summarize, clarify, simplify evidence, or to help explain the contents of records, documents, computer data, or other evidence introduced in the case. Charts and summaries are not new evidence, and you should give them only such weight as you think the underlying evidence deserves. So you've heard me talk about sources of evidence in this case. Those are the tools that you have to decide the case. Now, with that evidence in mind, what can you do with it? As jurors, you may bring to bear all your knowledge and experience. You don't check your common sense at the door to the jury room. Just the reverse. I instruct you to use your common sense. Give the evidence a reasonable and fair construction in the light of your common knowledge and experience. In determining the facts in this case, you may draw reasonable inferences from the evidence that you believe because you're entitled to rely upon both direct and indirect or circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence is evidence of what a witness claims to have seen or heard or touched or somehow perceived with their own senses. Indirect or circumstantial evidence exists where a witness does not testify directly to the fact that is sought to be proven, but you are provided with evidence of other facts and then asked to draw reasonable inferences from them about the fact that sought to be proved. Such inferences may be considered with all of the other evidence in reaching your verdict. Indirect or circumstantial evidence alone is sufficient to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, what do I mean by an inference? An inference is a logical deduction or conclusion that you may, but are not required to draw from evidence that you have accepted as believable. Inferences are little steps in reasoning, steps in which you take some known information, apply your experience in life to it, and then draw a conclusion. Sometimes you can draw more than one inference. You have to decide which inferences are reasonable and decide which seem more reasonable to you. Remember, when you're dealing with inferences, you never have to infer anything. You may, but do not have to draw inferences whatsoever. An inference drawn from indirect or circumstantial evidence need not be necessary or inescapable, but any inference which you do draw must be reasonable and possible. It must be logical. It must be a natural one, which is not too remote in the ordinary course of events. You may not guess. You may not speculate. You may not engage in surmise. You should not pile inference upon inference until the pile gets so high that it tips over logically, or that the chain gets so weak that it doesn't hold together anymore. When you run through your inferences, check the starting point and the ending point to make sure that they're still reasonable. Further, when the evidence tends to equally give rise to either of two inconsistent propositions, the Commonwealth has established neither proposition. In order to convict the defendant, you must find that all of the evidence and the reasonable inferences that you have drawn, taken together, prove that she is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Let me give you an example of an inference. Suppose that the issue you must decide is whether the U.S. Postal Service delivered the mail today. If you go home and someone in your household hands you the mail and states that they observed the letter carrier deliver the mail and retrieved it from the mailbox, this would be direct evidence that the U.S. Postal Service delivered the mail. The witness perceived the events with his or her own senses and told you what he or she observed. The issue you would have to decide is whether that witness was credible. On the other hand, if you go home from court and find mail in the mailbox, you may infer that it was delivered by the U.S. Postal Service today. You draw this reasonable inference based on the following known facts. The mailbox was emptied yesterday. You know that the mail is delivered by the U.S. Postal Service Monday through Saturday. The letters in the box are postmarked. You have exactly the same power in this case, not the power to speculate or to guess, but the power to draw reasonable inferences warranted by the evidence in the fashion I've just described. You may have noticed that Ms. Reed did not testify at this trial. Defendant has an absolute right not to testify since the entire burden of proof in this case is on the Commonwealth to prove that the defendant is guilty. It is not up to the defendant to prove that she is innocent. The fact that Ms. Reed did not testify has nothing to do with the question of whether she is guilty or not guilty. You are not to draw any adverse inference against the defendant because she did not testify. You're not to consider it in any way or even discuss it in your deliberations. You must determine whether the Commonwealth has proved its case against the defendant based solely on the testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits. Now that completes the first part of my instructions. Now I'm going to turn to the elements of the charges against Ms. Reed. The Commonwealth
She said that concludes the first part of my. Okay, how many parts? Can you just let me know now in advance, Bev? Is this a 10-parter? Tell me it's a 2-parter because I can survive another part. But if I can, a third part, I can't do it. All right, back to you, girl.
Degree murder. Now, I just want to tell you that our Supreme Judicial Court has promulgated jury instructions on homicide charges that I have to read verbatim. So I want to make sure to do that right. So murder in the second degree. In order to prove murder in the second degree, the Commonwealth must prove the following elements. 1, the defendant caused the death of John.
In order to prove murder in the second degree, you would have to rely on what is called a miracle.
Known to Ms. Reed, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. I will now discuss each of these requirements in more detail. The first element is that the defendant caused the death of John O'Keefe. A defendant's act is the cause of death where the act, in a natural and continuous sequence, results in death, and without which death would not have occurred. The second element is that the defendant intended to kill John O'Keefe, or intended to cause grievous bodily harm to John O'Keefe, or intended to do an act which, in the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. As you can see, the second element has 3 sub-elements, which I shall call prongs, and the Commonwealth satisfies its burden of proof if it proves any one of these 3 prongs beyond a reasonable doubt. The first prong is that the defendant intended to kill John O'Keefe. This means that the defendant consciously and purposefully intended to cause John O'Keefe's death. The second prong is that the defendant intended to cause grievous bodily harm to John O'Keefe. Grievous bodily harm means severe injury to the body. The third prong is that the defendant intended to do an act which, in the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. Let me help you understand how to analyze this third prong. You must first determine whether the defendant intended to perform the act that caused the victim's death. If you find that she intended to perform the act, you must then determine what the defendant herself actually knew about the relevant circumstances at the time she acted. Then you must determine whether, under the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known that the act intended by the defendant created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. If you have a reasonable doubt as to whether John O'Keefe's death was accidental because the death was caused by a negligent, careless, or mistaken act of the defendant, or resulted from a cause separate from the defendant's conduct, you may not find that the Commonwealth has proved that the defendant intended to kill, intended to cause grievous bodily harm, or intended to do an act which, in the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. In deciding whether the defendant intended to kill, intended to cause grievous bodily harm, or intended to do an act which, in the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result, you may consider any credible evidence.
I'm answering that question below me right there. Fear of what, Billy? You're a rock stat. I'm a rock stat. Yeah, I know. Quickly, because Bev is boring the shit out of me right now. Fear of, failure. Like, when you've been whacked from a good pedestal and you've been knocked out and you're down you worry. The negative voice comes in. I don't know. Or they, if you like the wrong tweet, panic sets in. You don't know when you've been pillaged by people. It just, they don't know what they're doing, but time passes and then you get to an I don't give a shit place. And it's a beautiful place. So fear of it not working. I don't know. I don't care 10 people or 10 million people. It's not going to change who I am. And I finally get to say that. Bev, if you weren't so boring right now, I would never take this moment of a personal nature. Okay? So get more interesting. Anyway, that's it. I love you guys. Let's get into this thing. I'm absolutely obsessed. Alan Jackson, you were You were quite manly today.
Create a voiceover using your own
All right.
voice.
So as to create a high degree of likelihood that substantial harm will result to another. Fifth, that by such operation of the motor vehicle, the defendant caused the death of John O'Keefe. To prove the first element, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was operating a motor vehicle. A person operates a motor vehicle while doing all of the things, the well-known things that drivers do as they travel on a street or highway, and also when doing any act which directly tends to set the vehicle in motion. A person is operating a motor vehicle whenever they are in the vehicle and intentionally manipulate some mechanical or electrical part of the vehicle, like the gear shift or the ignition, which alone or in sequence will set the vehicle in motion. To prove the second element, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant operated a motor vehicle in a public way. Any street or highway that is open to the public and is controlled and maintained by some level of government is a public way. This would include, for example, interstate and state highways, as well as municipal streets and roads. In determining whether any particular street or road is a public way, you may consider evidence, if any, about whether it has some of the usual indications of a public way. For example, whether it is paved, whether it has street lights, street signs, curbing, and fire hydrants, whether there are buildings along the street, whether it has any crossroads intersecting it, whether it is publicly maintained. To prove the third element, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that while operating a motor vehicle, the defendant was under the influence of intoxicating liquor, that is alcohol, and or the percent of alcohol in the defendant's blood was 0.08 or greater. I will now instruct you on both theories. What does it mean to be under the influence of alcohol? It is not illegal to drive after consuming alcohol as long as the operator is not under the influence of alcohol. However, neither does someone have to be drunk to be under the influence of alcohol. A person is under the influence of alcohol if they have consumed enough alcohol to reduce their ability to operate a motor vehicle safely by decreasing their judgment, alertness, and ability to respond promptly and effectively to unexpected emergencies. The amount of alcohol necessary to do this may vary from person to person. The Commonwealth is not required to prove that the defendant actually drove in an unsafe or erratic manner, but it is required to prove that the defendant's ability to drive safely was diminished by alcohol. You may rely on your experience and common sense about the effects of alcohol. You should consider any believable evidence about the defendant's alleged consumption of alcohol, as well as the defendant's appearance, condition, and behavior. In deciding this theory of whether the defendant operated a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol, you may also consider whether a blood test showed that the defendant had consumed alcohol. However, no matter what the reading is, the blood test is not sufficient by itself to prove.
Steve, I'm so glad this thing's on mute and nobody can hear me. Will you pour me a cocktail? I realize it's not quite noon here on the Pacific Coast, but you know what I mean? No one will look. Put it in a paper cup. They'll never know.
The Commonwealth may prove a person's blood alcohol level by a chemical test or analysis of their breath or blood. In deciding whether the Commonwealth has proved the defendant's blood alcohol level beyond a reasonable doubt, you may consider evidence, if any, about whether the test was administered within a reasonable time of operation of the motor vehicle, whether the person who administered the test was properly certified, whether and how the pre-test procedures were followed and employed, whether the testing device was working properly at the time the test was administered, and whether the test was administered properly. You may also consider any other evidence pertaining to the test or the test results. The fourth element the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt is that the defendant operated the vehicle wantonly or recklessly. A person drives recklessly when they ignore the fact that their manner of driving is very likely to result in death or serious injury to someone, or they are indifferent to whether someone is killed or seriously injured. It is not enough for the Commonwealth to prove that the defendant acted negligently, that is, acted in a way that a reasonably careful person would not. It must be shown that the defendant's actions went beyond mere negligence and amounted to recklessness. The defendant was reckless if she knew or should have known that such actions would pose a grave danger of death or serious injury to others, but chose, nevertheless, to run the risk and go ahead. Whenever I refer to the defendant's state of mind or her intent, you may consider any credible evidence that the defendant was affected by her consumption of alcohol. A defendant may have the requisite state of mind or intent even if she consumed alcohol, but you may consider such evidence in determining whether the Commonwealth has proved this element. Here, the defendant must have intended her acts in the sense that they were not accidental. But it is not necessary that the defendant intended or foresaw the consequences of those acts, as long as a reasonable person would know that they were so dangerous that death or serious injury would probably result. As such, the Commonwealth does not need to prove that the defendant intended to kill John O'Keefe. Rather, this is in that category of cases where public safety requires each driver, once they know what the situation is, to determine and to adhere to an objective standard of behavior. In determining whether the defendant drove recklessly, you should take into account all the facts of the situation: the defendant's rate of speed and manner of operation, the defendant's physical condition, and how well the defendant could see and control her vehicle, the condition of the defendant's vehicle, what kind of road it was and who else was on the road, what the time of day, the weather, and the condition of the road were, what any other vehicles or pedestrians were doing, and any other factors, including the defendant's consumption of alcohol, that you think are relevant. The fifth element that the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt is that the defendant, by her actions, caused the death of John O'Keefe. The defendant caused the death if her actions directly and substantially set in motion the entire chain of events that produced the death. A defendant's act is the cause of death where the act is a natural and continuous sequence, results in death, and without which death would not have occurred. If the Commonwealth has proven all five elements beyond a reasonable doubt, you should return a verdict of guilty. If the Commonwealth has failed to prove one or more of these elements beyond a reasonable doubt, you must return a verdict of not guilty. Now, the lesser offense of manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor includes the lesser offense of involuntary manslaughter. As a matter of law, the indictment that is before you, which charges the defendant with manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, also charges her with that lesser included offense. The Commonwealth may prove the lesser included offense of involuntary manslaughter, even if it fails to prove the greater charge of manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence. So I'm going to define involuntary manslaughter for you. To prove that the defendant is guilty of involuntary manslaughter because of wanton or reckless conduct, the Commonwealth must prove the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant caused John O'Keefe's death. Second, that the defendant intended the conduct that caused John O'Keefe's death. And third, the defendant's conduct was wanton or reckless. I will now discuss each element in detail. The first element is that the defendant caused the death of John O'Keefe. Remember, Ms. Reed caused John O'Keefe's death if her actions directly and substantially set in motion the entire chain of events that produced the death. A defendant's act is the cause of death where the act in a natural and continuous sequence results in death, and without which death would not have occurred. The second element is that the defendant intended the conduct that caused the death. The Commonwealth is not required to prove that the defendant intended to cause the death. You may consider any credible evidence that the defendant was affected by her consumption of alcohol. The third element is that the defendant's conduct was wanton or reckless. Wanton or reckless conduct is conduct that creates a high degree of likelihood that substantial harm will result to another. It is conduct involving grave risk of harm to another that a person undertakes with indifference or disregard of the consequences of such conduct. Whether conduct is wanton or reckless depends either on what the defendant knew or how a reasonable person would have acted knowing what the defendant knew. If the defendant realized the grave risk created by her conduct, her subsequent act amounts to wanton or reckless conduct, whether or not a reasonable person would have realized the risk of great danger. Even if the defendant herself did not realize the grave risk of harm to another, the act would constitute wanton or reckless conduct if a reasonable person, knowing what the defendant knew, would have realized the act posed a risk of grave danger to another. It is not enough for the Commonwealth to prove the defendant acted negligently, that is, in a manner that...
Okay, Bev, we're going to take a break. This is, there you go. Grateful Dead fans, come on. Bow, bow, bow. Ooh. Nothing shaking on Fairview Street, y'all. Here we go. You want to hear? Oh, the Boston Garden. Billy Bush went to Colby College in Waterville, Maine. Yeah, baby, we went down to the Boston Garden. I think I went 3 nights. Gotta say, I partook in some things that night. I did. Come on, Bev. Bev, you are killing everybody. You know what you're trying to do? You're trying to wait it out to the weekend so they can't go and deliberate. Because if they do that, guess what happens, Bev? Karen goes out this weekend and celebrates a victory. And we'll all raise a drink to John O'Keefe, okay? We got lost in all this. All right, Bev, back to you.
Right.
Sorry, guys. Had to happen. Oh.
The Commonwealth must prove the following 5 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant operated a motor vehicle. Second, that she operated the motor vehicle upon a public way or in a place in which the public has the right of access. Third, that while the defendant was operating the motor vehicle, she was under the influence of intoxicating liquor and or the percent of alcohol in the defendant's blood was 0.08 or greater. Fourth, that while operating a motor vehicle, the defendant did so in a negligent manner so that the lives or safety of the public might be endangered. Fifth, that by such operation of the motor vehicle, the defendant caused the death of John O'Keefe. Elements 1, 2, 3, and 5 are the same as manslaughter while under the influence of alcohol, as previously instructed a few moments ago. The difference between manslaughter while operating under the influence and motor vehicle homicide is the 4th element, so I'll focus on that. To prove the 4th element of motor vehicle homicide, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant drove negligently in a manner that might have endangered the lives or safety of other people. A person acts negligently when she fails to use due care. That is, when they act in a way that a reasonable person would not act. This can happen either by doing something that a reasonable person would not do under the circumstances, or by not doing something that a reasonable person would do. The defendant acted negligently if she drove in a way that a reasonable person would not have, and by doing so created an unnecessary danger to other people, a danger that she could have avoided by driving more carefully. The defendant's intent does not matter, so do not...
Good one there. Bryn, good question. How long till they come back with a verdict? I think it's going to be 20 minutes, but Bev is running her mouth so long here. I think she's going to take it up to the 4:30 window and say, you know what, we need to go home for the weekend, because Bev definitely wants to get down to, as it was said before, to the Cape. I want to get down to the Cape, have a good stiff drink, and I would think she would have a few tonight, and then come back Monday and face the fiddle. I thought this would be a very quick deliberation, very, very quick. But honestly, the way she's going, this is a 6-parter right here. All right. Oh, look who's calling me. Steve Levitan, the creator of Modern Family. What a great guy. Although he blew off our tea time yesterday. Steve, you're in trouble. Hang on.
Condition of the defendant's vehicle, the kind of a road it was, and who else was on the road, the time of day, the weather, and the road conditions, what any other vehicles or pedestrians were doing, and any other factors, including the defendant's consumption of alcohol, that you think are relevant. The offense of manslaughter while operating under a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor also includes the lesser offense of motor vehicle homicide, felony OUI liquor, and the lesser offense, and the lesser included offense of operating under the influence. As a matter of law, the indictment that is before you, which charges the defendant with manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, also charges her with these lesser included offenses. So the Commonwealth may prove the lesser included charge of operating under the influence, even if it fails to prove the greater charges of manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor and motor vehicle homicide. You may find the defendant guilty of operating under the influence only if you are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, and you are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of motor vehicle homicide, but are convinced that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of operating under the influence. To prove the defendant guilty of operating under the influence, the Commonwealth must prove elements 1, 2, and 3 that I instructed you on motor vehicle homicide while OUI. So the third indictment is leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. In order to prove the defendant guilty of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, the Commonwealth must prove 6 things beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant operated a motor vehicle. Second, that she operated a motor vehicle on a public way or in a place which the public has a right of access. Third, that the defendant knowingly collided with John O'Keefe. Fourth, that the collision caused injury to John O'Keefe, resulting in his death. Fifth, that after causing such injury, the defendant failed to stop and provide name, home address, and registration number of the motor vehicle.
Is Bev relitigating the whole case right now? I feel like she's playing defense. She's sort of, this is, what are we doing? We all know the trial. We all know that the jury has to go vote. What are you doing? Procedures. I get it, whatever. But oh my God! All right, I want this jury to have the 15 minutes they need before the weekend.
Not required to infer that a person who intentionally uses a dangerous weapon on another person intends to kill that person or cause him grievous bodily harm, or intends to do an act which, in the circumstances known to him or her, a reasonable person would know creates a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. An item that is normally used for innocent purposes can become a dangerous weapon if it is used in a dangerous or potentially dangerous fashion. The law considers an item, in this case a motor vehicle, to be used in a dangerous fashion if it is used in a way that it reasonably appears to be capable of causing serious injury or death to another person. In deciding whether an item was used as a dangerous weapon, you may consider the circumstances surrounding the alleged crime, the nature, size, and shape of the item, and the manner in which it was handled or controlled. That completes my second part of the instructions. I'm now going to turn to the third and final part, which is shorter. In order for a jury to return a verdict, that is, to reach a decision in a criminal case, the law provides that there may only be 12 persons on the deliberating jury, and you will note that there are 18 of you. To avoid the need for a new trial if one or more jurors becomes ill or is to be excused for some good reason, we customarily impanel extra jurors at the beginning of a trial, as we did in this case. Because of the anticipated and now actual length of this trial, we impaneled more jurors than are commonly impaneled. However, when you begin your deliberations, the law in Massachusetts is that only 12 jurors can deliberate. Therefore, at the conclusion of my instructions, Mr. McDermott will reduce your number to 12 on a random basis. The jurors not selected to serve in the jury will become the alternate jurors. If you are selected as an alternate juror, please do not feel that your efforts in this case have been wasted, because as I've indicated, it's important that we have extra jurors in case of an emergency. If we did not impanel extra jurors and a juror became ill, or for some other reason had to be excused, we would have to try the whole case all over again with the new jury. In the event that a juror has to be excused once the jury starts deliberating, then an alternate juror will be chosen to take that juror's position, and the jury will be required to start deliberations from the beginning. Therefore, it's important that the alternates not discuss the case with anyone else, including each other. For if an alternate becomes a member of the jury for deliberations, the alternate's views should be his or her own and not be influenced by anyone else. Different states and jurisdictions use different means to select a foreperson of the jury. In some jurisdictions, the jurors select their own person. In Massachusetts, the judge is responsible for selecting the foreperson. A foreperson of a jury has been described as the first among equals. He or she is responsible for organizing the deliberations, communicating with the court if necessary during deliberations, and presenting the verdict following your deliberations. The foreperson has no greater say or vote in the jury's deliberations. However, and in that sense, the juror is equal with all other jurors. I am going to ask the juror seated in seat number 1, your juror number 5, sir, would you agree to be foreperson in this case? I'm going to ask you if you would be foreperson in this case. Thank you. I always appreciate it when people say yes before I tell you what's involved, but thank you very much. All right. So the foreperson will be given the verdict slip setting forth the charges against the defendant. 12 jurors must agree. So, all right. So I skipped the line. When you return to the jury room to deliberate, the court officers will deliver to you all the exhibits in this case, as well as the verdict slips that you'll be using in returning your verdict. So the foreperson will be given the verdict slip setting forth the charges against the defendant. 12 jurors must agree before you have a decision to any specific charge. That means that to find the defendant guilty, all 12 must agree. To find the defendant not guilty, all 12 must agree. You should consider each indictment individually and continue deliberating until you've reached a final verdict. You should not begin deliberating until all 12 jurors are together in the jury room, and should cease deliberating if any one juror is not present in the jury room. It is important that you not communicate with anyone outside the jury room about the deliberations or about anything concerning this case. Further, I remind you that no juror is better qualified to determine the truth of the facts in this case, to dispute or to deliberate on a verdict solely because of education, background, or experience. The parties and I have chosen each of you as fair and impartial jurors, and your voices have equal weight. To reach a unanimous an unanimous verdict, each juror must agree. Jurors have a duty to consult with one another and to deliberate with a view to reaching an agreement, if it can be done without violence to individual judgment. At the same time, each juror must decide the case for himself or herself, but only after impartially considering.
The AI expert from Fiverr just launched our app.
The app significantly improved the site's.
Hesitate to re-examine your views and change your opinion if convinced it is wrong. But no juror should surrender an honest conviction to the opinion of fellow jurors simply for the purpose of reaching a verdict. Although how you conduct your deliberations is up to you, I urge you not to begin by conducting an immediate straw vote. Rather, I encourage you not to take any votes before you've had completed a careful and thorough collective view of all the evidence. At this point, I want to remind you of an important issue that I raised with you at the beginning of this trial. I told you that our system of justice depends on judges like me and jurors like you being able and willing to make careful and fair decisions. All people deserve fair and equal treatment in our system of justice, regardless of their race, national origin, religion, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, education, income level, or any other personal characteristic. I also pointed out that we all have our own built-in expectations and assumptions, even if we are not conscientiously aware of them. And I talked about some of the ways we can try to deal with them. First, slow down. Do not rush to a decision. Hasty decisions are the most likely to reflect stereotypes or hidden biases. Take time to consider all the evidence. Second, As you start to draw conclusions, consider what evidence, if any, supports the conclusions you are drawing and whether any evidence casts doubt on those conclusions. Double check whether you are actually using unsupported assumptions instead of the evidence. Third, as you think about the people involved in this case, consider them as individuals rather than as members of a particular group. Fourth, I might ask myself, would I view the evidence differently if the people were from different groups, such as different racial, ethnic, or gender identity groups? Fifth, listen to your fellow jurors. They may have different points of view. If so, they may help you determine whether you are focusing on the facts or making assumptions, perhaps based on stereotypes. Of course, your fellow jurors could be influenced by their own unstated assumptions, so don't be shy or hesitant to speak up. You should participate actively, particularly if you think the other jurors are overlooking or undervaluing evidence you find important. In fact, when you explain your thoughts out loud to other jurors, you are also helping yourself to focus on the evidence instead of assumptions. If you use these strategies, then you will do your part to reach a decision that is as fair as humanly possible, and that is your responsibility as jurors. Now, during the course of your deliberations, you might have a question concerning the law in this case. Perhaps I said something you did not understand. If you have any questions, please feel free to bring them to my attention by writing a note dated and signed by the foreperson and sending it to me by way of the court officers. I'm not suggesting for a minute that you have to have questions, but if you do, that's the process. Because your role as the jury is to determine the facts in this case, I cannot answer any questions you have concerning the facts of the case. I have no role in this case when it comes to deciding what the facts are. Neither is it possible for me to provide you with a transcript of the testimony. If you send a question to me, I'll respond after consulting with the lawyers. Please do not ask a court officer or anyone else to answer any questions concerning anything material to the case. Generally, we will not answer a question or take a verdict from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock, but I think you've all waited so long to get this case, I think we can change that. But the court staff needs a luncheon break. You'll have lunch brought into you, and you can decide whether or not you want to stop your deliberations during lunch or continue and deliberate. At the end of the day, if you're still deliberating, I'll send in a note asking if you want to continue deliberating or break for the day and return the next morning. Don't tell anyone, including me, how the jury stands numerically or otherwise on the questions before you until such time as you've reached a unanimous verdict. You are going to notice shortly that the court officers are going to take an oath, and you will hear from that they too, as well as all other persons, are forbidden to communicate in any way or manner with any member of this jury on any subject touching on the merits of this case. Remember that the decision of the jury must be unanimous, and the foreperson should be certain that each member of the jury is in complete agreement with the verdict on each indictment. After the final vote of the jury, the foreperson should check the appropriate boxes as to each charge, then sign and date the verdict forms and notify the court officer when you've reached a unanimous verdict. You will then be brought back into the courtroom where the foreperson will deliver the verdicts. This will be the last time I'm going to see counsel at sidebar, but I'm required to see counsel at sidebar.
Okay, I'm going, oh my God, Bev. All right, Bev. We're in sidebar right now. Yeah, which is right down the street there, Johnny, for Bev to, go down. She's going to get so wicked hammered tonight at sidebar. It's going to be like out of control. All right. And I don't blame her. I mean, if I was sitting in that bar and I saw Bev Canoni walk in down there in a cape, let's call it, I don't know, Chatham, maybe in Chatham or something like that. And I saw Bev come in, I would say, you send that woman a glass of brown on a Bushman, all right? You tell it's the Bushman, and as much brown as she wants, she can have, because there's Alan, who took a leak. I don't blame you, guy. Get back from sidebar. All right, there they are, scanning the room. Hello, Hank. How are you? And let's give us a quick sidebar right there. Maybe we're going to get to it, perhaps before the weekend.
May I?
Yes.
Oh, we're going to play a game now, a little bingo. Here we go. B5.
Could the juror sitting in seat number 13 step down and take your place as an alternate? Could the juror sitting in seat number 7
That one got
step
Steve.
down and take
Hey,
your
pop
place
in there. You
as an
thought that was
alternate?
funny. Here comes Steve.
Juror
Steve, tell
6,
everybody where you're
could
from.
you step down and take your place as an alternate?
I'm from Lin, City of Sin, baby.
Lin,
City of Sin.
I got a Lin boy here
You
with me,
got me.
guys. All you East Coasters, I got a Lin guy in here.
Oh, baby.
All right.
Baby. You got me with the bingo. You got me with the bingo.
Okay, let's see what's going
Take your place as an alternate.
All
Can I swear
right.
in the court officers?
Yes, please do.
Could I have the court officers raise your right hands? Do you swear that you will keep this jury in alternates in some separate but convenient place until they agree that you not suffer any person to speak to them, or speak to them yourselves, nor ask them if they agree, nor suffer them to disperse until they have discharged their verdict, except by further order of the court, so help you God? Thank you.
All right. So, members of the jury, I need not remind you that you have an important responsibility, but I believe that you will bring to bear all the wisdom and the judgment and conscience that you possess in reaching your verdict in this case. All that we can expect from you is that you decide the case with integrity and with principle. We all expect you to reach an impartial verdict dictated by your logic, without bias, without prejudice or sympathy, and not prompted by any facts except those that you've heard here in court during the trial. We are looking for impartial judgment dictated by your reasoning and the fullest discharge of your oaths as jurors. You may retire and deliberate your verdict.
Jared, make sure you take your notebooks with you, please.
I'm going to see counsel one more time.
Okay. All right. We're in another quick sidebar. You said that was the last sidebar. Bev, if we don't have trust and honesty between us, Bev, that's a problem. Guys, you got to keep your voice down here. I got the painters in the house. And I don't know why I get into the Ted voice, but I can't I can't help it. You know what I'm thinking? Hey, Johnny, I don't know what's going on with this Bev chick, but I got to tell you, yeah, she's losing her mind. How you doing, fellas? Take a look at the walls. I got the guys here. They're going to paint the guest house. It's going to be nice. We're down here. Go ahead, fellas. Just tiptoe, will you? Take off the shoes, all right? Hit your socks. Oh, boy. Let's take a look at this guy. He's got his luggage packed right here in the middle. Look at this guy. He's got his luggage in the middle. He's like, can I get on the next plane, please? And I look at Karen Reed's sweet father. There he is. Been there every day.
What if your website success was only
this guy's life? I apologize for the
limited by one single thing? Privacy regulations.
Figure it out. I know. I got the premium. Believe me, I got the premium. I sprung for the $70. Back to Karen Reed's father. Look at this guy. Oh my God, what has he been through? It's just brutal. All of them. All of them. Joe Krowski, I love you. Krowski's texting me right now, criminal defense attorney from the Boston area. I love Joe. He's a good guy. You know, let's not go crazy on Joe. Joe says to me, I don't think we're going to have one today. He doesn't think it's going to be a verdict today. That's a bummer, Joe. I'm going to get wicked drunk then this weekend. Okay, wicked, hot. But he said, I think Hank's closing
Judge,
was
the first
terrific.
thing is,
I
counsel
said,
this
Joe, what are you
morning
smoking?
and
Send some over.
yesterday
I need
looked
some.
at exhibits, and I believe
Took
that we were
75
pretty
minutes to
close.
say
We
10
had one
things 10
exhibit
different ways.
that needed to be dealt with. Ms. Little, what number is that one again? 150?
Yes, this is exhibit 155.
155, and I'll let Ms. Little take it from there.
Yes, there's just one page, Your Honor. I believe, and my memory is not perfect, but I believe that we were going to have this redacted subject to the same redactions from last trial. I think there's just one line here that needs to be redacted.
Okay, is the Commonwealth in agreement with that one line?
No objection. I believe it was redacted last time, so if defense
Okay.
wants to make that redaction, you can go into evidence.
Great.
I'll see that Sharpie and maybe I can take care of it.
I think we probably have one here you
I
can
have
have.
one. I definitely have one somewhere.
All right.
That's number one. And number two is, can counsel look at the verdicts and just tell me if verdict slips and just tell me if they're okay with it? Thanks.
You'll see that it's not what you provided me yesterday, Mr. Kennedy.
This is like a look at this little gathering right here. This is something. There's a Lesty right there. He's an intense guy. I love that video they shot from whatever Homewood Suites that was, where Alessi is hanging out, Yannetti, and Jackson is cooking like shrimp a la Jackson, and some other lady was on the couch, and I think Karen was filming the whole thing. I forgot where I saw that, but Jackson looks like a real chef. Not to mention the medium shirts. Jackson's got some real guns on him. You know what I'm saying? City of Lynn, City of Sin.
Counsel,
Now, I just can't believe that.
Mr. Rose,
oh, here we go.
can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will keep that jury in some separate but convenient place until they agree that you not suffer any person to speak to them yourselves, nor ask them if they agree, nor suffer them to disperse them, they charge their verdict, except by further order of the court, so help you God? Simply because you weren't in the room. Thank you.
Okay. Action Jackson, good name. I'm going to say this about Alan Jackson. He's got some very strong biceps.
Is the Commonwealth content with the verdict slip?
Almost content.
So, Your Honor, I understand that you've rejected our proposed verdict slip.
So everybody else can sit down. Mr. Yannetti can stand.
Thank you. I understand that you've rejected our proposed verdict slip. Our concern with this verdict slip is that there are 4 options for, actually more than that, 7 options for guilty verdicts, 1 option for not guilty. And we're concerned that this is too confusing for the jury. So we are asking that there be not guilty options for each of the charges, including the offense charged and each one of the lesser included offenses. We really ran into the same issue last time. I think what complicates it is the fact that there are 2 theories for 2 of the lesser included.
Do you suggest that doesn't accurately reflect the law?
It does reflect the law. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it makes things very confusing, and that's why we believe that it cries out for some not guilty option, given the amount of options for convictions on this verdict slip. So
Okay.
we would again ask the court to adopt our proposed verdict slip.
So your proposed verdict slip did not cite any case law. Do you have any case law that supports that proposition, Mr. Yannetti? I have not found any. I've looked.
There's not a lot of case law out there in this verdict slip either.
Other than that has never been proven, has never been found to be inaccurate.
Not yet.
Okay.
And I mean that
So
with all respect.
that's fine. So your rights are reserved. Does that help you?
Right, well, all we can do is object, Judge, and you make,
Okay.
you make the decision.
Okay.
Judge, the last couple.
If you find authority for that, let me know.
We'll do.
Okay.
The last couple of things, judges, that we were provided with a clean
Laptop?
computer laptop. Thanks. We were, with a clean laptop. Defense counsel had a chance to, or at least defense had a chance to look at it, and I think that's fine. But
All right. So we'll send that in with the exhibits. I need to go edit my charge to fix all the typos.
and then the final thing is I provided counsel with the exhibit list that we had, and it was satisfactory for both sides.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
All rise for the court, please.
Bev, you are really trying to get this up to the edge here. Yeah, I thought we had a verdict coming today. We don't. There's no way. We have a weekend coming our way. Let me go fix my typos. Holy mackerel. Nice Father's Day. You could have given Karen's old man a nice Father's Day here. Oh, this woman is just going to get pilloried. Pilloried. How's my boy Howie Carr? What's Howie saying about this? We got to go on Howie Carr's show. I like Howie. Yeah. He's got one of the best voices ever. He's the anti-Bev. Holy mackerel. This is incredible. Well. Oh, yeah. Here you go. There's a nice picture of John O'Keefe. I got to pull up a picture. You know, Karen looks like an old NBC executive way back in the day named Amy Rosenblum. Let me see if I can pull up a picture.
There's no way that happened, but their ending was good. Recall, they being the prosecution, recalled to some of the things that the defense did. The most ridiculous thing.
What is this guy doing? Court TV is getting into it. All right. Holy mackerel. Let me just... I wanted this done for the weekend. VR. You remember Amy Rosenblum? Oh, my God. Amy Rosenblum. Amy Rosenblum, NBC, images. If you guys think that this... Oof, it's Joan Rivers. Okay, give me an Amy Rosenblum. This will say it's a little bit Karen. And don't go like, you know, we're playing the ish game, okay? Nothing's exact. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. Amy's going to kill me. Here we go. Too much makeup on that one. Here we go. Oh. I mean, a little bit. Well, that's Amy Rosenblum right there. I don't know if people agree with that. Probably not. Could be some other ones. Every woman, you put up a picture and say, that looks like so-and-so, and you are guaranteed to get killed by every woman. You know who you look like? Don't say it. Okay, here we go. Just a little bit Amy Rosenblum. That's Amy Rosenblum. A little Karen Reed vibe there, no? Little bit? Yeah, a little. Thank you, Shady 62 Minx. Yeah, you see that? That's a little bit. She looked more like Joan. That's funny. Okay. All right. Anyway. Oof. Are we gonna get this verdict here? I don't think so. I do not think so.
The people gathered. We'll bring you that up next here on Court TV.
Okay. I feel better about it. We'll be right back. You'll be right back. I don't know. I took a leak a while ago, by the way, and I think I'm still hanging in there, which is pretty good for a middle-aged fella. You know what I'm saying? Doc Rivers and I talk about that something. I hate people who drop names. It's not classy to drop names. You know who taught me that? Brad Pitt. But anyway, Doc Rivers, he has the same birthday as me. He's 10 years older. He calls me, says, Bushman, I had one last night. I had a 1 last night. That means he only took a leak once. Yeah, that's too bad, Doc. I had it too. All right. Not good for Karen Self to wait all weekend. She's waited long enough. I don't know. All right. You need a new cap, Billy. Okay, let's do a cap change. Steve, hang on. We need a cap change. Can you go into that? No, go to in my room next to the Peloton. Let's get a cap change. The Brad Pitt name drop. Yeah, you know, whatever. I could tell you I'm close with Brad Pitt. I'm not. I'm not going to do that. You're a pisser, Shauna. Shauna, you know what? I am a pisser, sweetheart.
You've got a big new website idea, and the team loves it. Instead of taking months to build it,
okay, we're going to do a little trivia.
With Framer designing
yeah, it's my God. Skip, here's a little trivia. What 3 Los Angeles professional sports teams logos are in this one logo? 3 LA sports teams. First person to get it, I'll flash you. Flash you these beautiful boobs I've been working on. All right? What 3 Los Angeles sports teams are combined in this one logo? Big question right there. Can anyone get it? All right. The Pistons. That's not an LA sports team, Honeybee. Honeybee, I love you, sweetheart. She just wants to see the Bushman's pecs. So she's like, oh, no, close. Lakers, Angels, Rams. No. Should be women. That was good. No, Tina Grasso. Lakers, Dodgers, Chargers. No, but also close. Lakers, Dodgers, Chargers. No. Lakers, Dodgers, Rams. Heidi, she got it. Okay, so the Rams are that. The LA is the Dodgers, and the L is the Lakers. You get it? That's the L of the Lakers. The Rams is the curly Q, and the LA is the Dodgers. Heidi, this is for you, girl. Woo! All right. That was only for Heidi. Everyone else, turn off your cameras. All right? There you go, girl. Beautiful. Holy crap. Someone keeps putting angels in there. But actually, it's not bad. I get the angels. It would be cool, actually, if you could put the little angels halo somewhere in there, too. Thank you, Heidi. That's a pretty cool hat. My buddy, his son, developed it. Anyway, I don't know what Bev is doing in there, but it's going to take a while. Krowski, you in your office yet? Come on, let's have an argument. Here's what Joe Krowski said to me, criminal defense. You're just too LA now. You like conspiracy. Her backing up 24 miles an hour with gas pedal depressed 75% at 34 Fairview at the same time he stops moving for the last time, coupled with the phone battery temp decreasing. Smoking taillight. Leaves little doubt what happened. I'll tell you what leaves little doubt what happened, buddy. What leaves little doubt of what happened is there's too much here, Joe. There's way too much here. By the way, there's no hypothermia. And the Bryans butt dialing each other. Brian Higgins going to the police station in order to move Kaz, and he never moved one. He just walked around on his phone talking. The Ring camera from across the street missing. The house sold. The dog rehomed. The 2 phones destroyed the day before. Let's see. Yeah. Forget about the pig DNA on the arm, the scratches, the fact that the 53 phone calls, Hank Brennan thinks the 53 phone calls are actually, 53 messages are a sign of cover-up. Karen Reed is not a good actress. Okay, you would hear the panic in her voice. She changed from pissed off, angry, buzzed at him to very concerned just at the right time. She's not that strong. Okay. What else, Joe? How about the investigation that never was? Are you telling me that the lead investigator in this situation, Michael Proctor, had no reason to investigate anything? There's a guy lying on your lawn out here, and he's got a bruise on his face. He's hit in the back of the head, and he's got a gouge across the back of the head. And he's lying there dead, and I don't know. I don't think it's not a crime scene. Let's not put up any crime tape. Let's not do any. No, it's a terrible thing. Don't know what happened. Let's not even knock on the door. Big Brian Albert never comes out of his house. He doesn't hear anything, doesn't come on the lawn. Jen McCabe never thinks to go in and get the only first responder that might know how to handle a situation. Don't even bother him. The dog, where was the dog? I mean, come on. This is a mountain of, all they have to do, it's burden of proof, okay, on Hank Brennan, and he's done a terrible job. But I'm not saying he's a bad prosecutor. It's a terrible ordeal. He's handed a tough situation. So, he can't do it. Reasonable doubt? There's nothing but doubt. This can't go any other way. And I'll tell you what, it's very good for the prosecution and especially the state if they can get rid of this with a hung jury. Then they can claim, we were wronged. We were wronged. That would be the best for them. But I think it's going to be a not guilty across the board. She's going to walk, and then there is going to be the most awkward situation they've ever faced. What do you do? What do you do next? Is Peggy O'Keefe, by the way, bless her heart, is she going to say, these dumb Gen Zers on this jury, I can't believe they just couldn't see it, because they're just following her because she's popular? Or is she going to be like, wait a minute, I'm tired of playing this game. What happened to my son? We all want to know what happened to this guy. The FBI is probably, bringing the FBI, says Rob. I don't know. That's totally up to Trump now. You know what I mean? Like, the FBI is not operating, I don't know if you're a Trumper or not, doesn't matter. But they're not operating without, it's now up to him. They're not independent, right? Same as DOJ. They're extensions of him. So it's up to him. That's why I texted Peter Doocy from Fox News, who we love. I like to say the deuce is loose on hot mics as often as I can. But Peter Doocy, I said, listen, you got to find a way to ask Trump what they're going to do. Are they going to bring in the feds? Christine M. says bring in the feds. Yeah, I agree. I'd like to, we'll see what happens. But Foreman is a middle-aged black man, what's this, who never took notes per courtroom observers. Maybe he didn't need to. Black, white, or whatever color he is. Look at this. Okay, Hank was a mob defense lawyer for Whitey Bulger. Now he's a mob defense lawyer for the Alberts, hired by D.A. Morrissey to... Oh, my God. Mystery singer. Look at this, firing away here. Yeah, I don't know. MP Michael Proctor. I believe that's who you're talking about. Yeah, where's that guy? Disgraced and gone. That's why Bev picked him up. He wasn't taking notes. Picked him. He wasn't. That's why Bev picked him. He wasn't taking notes. Yeah. Hank wanted to say Karen was guilty because Arca used a signal app. Oh, my Dr. Proctor. Honeybee. How do you say that, Dr. Proctor? Never is Karen going to the clink. Well, I mean, it would be... the thing is, you know, they're in a real bind here because every single person outside that courthouse with a sign in their hands or a pink T-shirt on... Oh, this is, by the way, it's my golf shirt. I didn't even realize. Every person outside that courthouse is going to go bonkers. I mean, I don't think it's going to look like downtown Los Angeles, but, you know, if they send, it's going to be mayhem. If they declare Karen Reed guilty, it's not going to happen. There's just no way. The only thing it could be is a hung jury. So while Bev is in there fixing typos, you know, we get to... She refused to take a plea deal, everybody. The text messages show they also discussed this in their little family group. All right. Turtle Boy was in the courtroom. Yeah, he texted me. We're gonna hear from him when he's back. Entire crowd was completely silent this morning when they all came in, just giving their hand signals. Oh, this is sad. Miss Tiffany, Peggy's never gonna know what happened, even if served on a silver platter by the FBI. Papa O'Keefe, his team of free Karen Reed. I know their family. Papa O'Keefe knows to keep his mouth shut because Mama O'Keefe is... Remember when they said to her, she's on the stand, they go, "How long you been married?" She goes, "Too long." Good sense of humor, by the way. Reminds me of a little joke. I don't know if I should tell it right now. Why not? We got time. Mrs. Bernstein goes into court. She's there every day, and the judge finally says, the judge is trying to ignore her. She's waiting for her turn. Days go by. She keeps showing up. The judge finally says, "Okay, Mrs. Bernstein, your turn. What do you want?" And she walks up and she goes, "I'd like a divorce from my husband, Larry." "You want a divorce from your Larry? How long have you been married to Larry?" 64 years, April. "How old are you?" "I'm 86. You want a divorce now? Why?" She goes, "Enough's enough." I can hear you laughing. You didn't even laugh. Son of a bitch. Enough is enough, says Shauna. Boom, there's the punchline. Enough's enough. 64 years, April. Oh, man. It's just Tina Grasso with a big laugh on the joke, I think. I don't know. Tina, I love you. Thank you for the support. Oh, man. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Same issue. I'm obsessed with Mrs. O'Keefe. I really am. I think if the feds come in, Mrs. O'Keefe will get her answer. Yeah. I don't think she's going to go after... VR, Billy, wax those boobies. I'm not going to do that. Chest waxing is a very unmanly thing. Scissors is okay. But you're not going in there and like, "Look at me. I'm actually not 50. I'm a swimmer." Come on. Yeah, wax those boobies. Did you really say that to me? Oh, my God. I'm telling my girlfriend that name-dropping Brad Pitt joke. You do it. You do it. What retired cop or not retired cop would not come out of the house while lights flashing and trucks running at 6 a.m.? Of course. And Jen doesn't run to the house to check on her sister? Smelled rotten from minute one. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Turtle Boy who made this thing, bigger and got the attention it deserved. And now nothing you can do. You can't ignore it. Can't stick that, what do you call it? That serpent back in the G-string. I don't know what I'm talking about. What escapes a box? Wow. 503 call. Billy is aging like a fine wine. Really? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like an old aging starlet. Oh God. I think of what's his name? My favorite guy, Nathan Lane in The Birdcage, when he goes into his dressing room and says, "Come out here. Come out." And he says, "No, I'm not coming out. I refuse to come out." And he says, "It's because I'm a woman." And he goes, "You're not a woman." And he goes, "Oh, like, how could you hurt me so badly?" Oh, man. Here's a nice... Oh, I'm just an asshole. I lost my mom recently. Her and I love pop culture and would watch you back on Access Hollywood. She'd absolutely love this podcast, Billy. Oh, may she rest in peace. Thank you for that. I'm sorry you lost your mama. Lost my dad 4 years ago. Best friend. Yeah. But you know what? I was in the room with him when he passed away. And I was looking at stuff. He was 35 minutes before his 90th birthday, and he passed away. And I felt the spirit leave the room. And that's like, I believe, if you ever doubt God, it was incredible. The whole energy of the room shifted as he went somewhere else, and this shell of a body was there. It was incredible. All right. Well, Bev, what are you...
Either supporting or not.
What are you doing,
have
Bev?
to wait.
I really want a verdict. I just don't think we're going to get one here. No need to flash us, BB. We loved you since jump.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Is that an expression that's going to stick? Since jump? I don't know. I think it'd be pretty good. Yeah. The Sallyport garage. Oh, how about Kelly Devers' salary? 2023 to 2024. A 67% raise in pay? Really? Was her work just that exemplary from year to year? You go from 85 G's to 143?
Yeah, our friend Peter Murphy found that.
That's a nice jump.
Suspicious.
By the way, that's a hell of a salary increase. Peter Murphy, we love Peter Murphy on the show. Do you know Peter Murphy? He's a retired police sergeant there. He's 30 years on the Canton PD, retired as a sergeant. He was hysterical. If you check out the Hot Mike's page, our interview with him, look at the Instagram. The Hot Mike's Instagram is really funny. We talked about the swinging. We heard there were swingers inside. He goes, "My keys aren't in the bowl."
In the upside down pineapple. The upside down pineapple.
You see an upside down pineapple. My years on the job tells me you see an upside down pineapple. You know they're swinging inside. Someone else told me it's like a foot. If a garage door
I never heard
is
this.
a foot ajar, like if it's up a foot, that means people. What do? You get on your belly and crawl under and, hey, who's swinging in here? Oh, thank you for that right there. HS3. Keeping it real, that's what's there. Why not? We love Peter Murphy. We do.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, we do love Peter Murphy. We got to give him some love right there. Watch this, Peter. Mystery singer. Wine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. Good guy, Peter. Sweet. Is it a sweetness to him? You know what I mean? You can feel the injury. When we were talking to him this past week, we're talking to Peter, he's pissed because he's a really good cop, He's a very high integrity guy. And all of his friends, retired guy, he's upset. And it takes courage. I was talking about Stoic philosophy, the 4 cornerstones of Stoic philosophy: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And the courage to stand up and say what you truly believe in when the tide is going, a certain direction. It takes guts, especially this day and age with social media and stuff. People are going to jump all over you, So I respect anyone, whether it's politics or justice or whatever it is, who speaks, from their heart. I believe that this is it's 3:12 p.m. Eastern time. That means Bev is oh Jesus, Bev has an upside down gavel on her door as a sign. Pineapple. Okay, we went too far. I don't think we can get that. Or as Ted would say, that's where we'll draw the line. Okay. Oh, yes. Did Peter tell you about getting charged with trespassing by the Canton PD? Yeah, he did. He said he was the Canton PD kind of hit him with a trespassing charge. He said it was a sign that was covered with snow for couldn't see it at all, and he considered that to be a warning. He thought that was a little shady. Thank God it's only that. At this point, everything is way too high profile for there to be any really bad business, right? And of course, I'm across the country, so. But a long history in Boston. My brother was a Cambridge guy, lived in Cambridge, and he started his company there in Watertown. Athena Health. My brother started Athena Health, in the basement of his first house when he was in business school. Him and two other guys started Athena Health, headquarters in Watertown. Unbelievable. Big Boston guy. All my family's in Boston. We got a family reunion coming up in Maine, June 26th. Mom's side, not the Bushes, all the way up. In Rockland, Maine. We're going all the way up there. All right, Deb. All right, Deb. Somebody needs sleep. Bev, let's go, sweetheart. Let's go, sweetheart. We want some action. We will be right back. All right, Rockland, a nice area. Yeah, Rockland, Maine. Yeah. It's beautiful up there. You take a little Cape Air. I do a little JetBlue, right? I do a little JetBlue into Logan. You stay in Terminal C, which is beautiful. And you just go 50 yards and you hop it right in.
I know Rockland quite well, actually.
It lands up at Knox Point, Knox County Airport, and you take a little 10-minute cab down to the ferry dock where I hop in the boat, and then I bust out to where I'm going. But we're going to a nice resort there in Rockport, and all my cousins are from Boston. We're gonna have a beautiful time. Bev is an asshole, says Tiff. Tiff, that's not a nice Tiff. I understand. JetBlue. All right. Let me text Turtle Boy. Let's see what's going on.
See what's going on.
Yep. How much time we got here?
Let's see what.
What are they saying? ... What's the rumbling? Question mark. When is Bev coming back? Question mark. Every time I dictate, I look down for 1 second now because it has the ability with me to say something horrible. What are they saying? Turtle Boy was not guilty yesterday. That's right. Shout out there for him. Any of us could be Karen Reed.
So true.
Someone wrote on the Albert's Pizza review that they ordered a pie with extra tail light. Gotta read the scathing reviews. That is just... 34 minutes so far. Isn't that an interesting number? 34 would be incredible if she came back. Prescient number. Man.
I think Bev filibustered to get us to the weekend.
Yeah. I got to say, she wants this weekend. She needs this weekend. By the way, someone keep a close eye on Bev this weekend. If you're out there, if you're a neighbor, and just make sure she doesn't flee. This is a lot of heat. I think this thing is going to blow open wide. I mean, we're all watching like, what is the governor of Massachusetts on all of this, right? I know she's been asked before, but I want to see.
I love the Cape.
This is fully statewide, if not nationwide, of course. Bev will be at the Cape. She lives for her weekends at the Cape. You know what? The last family reunion we did was in Chatham. What's the name of that nice place in Chatham? Very nice resort. We all were there. They have a great bar. Holy shit, did they have a nice bar in town? I forgot. It's so cool. Think of resort in Chatham, Massachusetts. We were there. It was incredible. Now we're going to Maine this was 2 years ago. We were in Chatham. Governor Healy is corrupt too.
I think it's called the Chatham
I didn't say that.
Resort.
I'm just reading a comment. Yeah, there was no collision.
Love Chatham.
Love Chatham. Yeah, it's beautiful. Chatham Bar's in. That's it.
Yeah, it's called the Chatham Inn. Chatham Bar.
Chatham Bar is in. Yep.
So good.
I went for a lovely run out by the water and came in. What am I saying? It wasn't lovely at all. It hurt like a son of a bitch. It was the worst run I've ever been on in my life. Every run is terrible. I hate it.
I say I run like I'm trying to put holes in the pavement.
Scared to ever to the mass after this. Yeah. Kennedy loved Chatham. He did? Yeah, 3 fingers. 3 fingers to the bartender. 3 fingers. Teddy loved Chatham. Oh, yeah. I get that. Oh, if Bev's hair could talk. Oh, if Bev's hair could talk. I got a feeling she is running out the clock on this one. I really do. She wants to come out. Oh, yeah. You know what? I agree with this. You got to come back to this, man. Poor Peggy, R.I.P. Johnny. Yeah, I think about that woman all the time. I think about Peggy O'Keefe all the time, and I see her right there. She's mad. She's hurting. She lost her daughter. Shortly after that, she loses her son-in-law. The children have to go, they divided between her and John. John takes them on. Like, that's the best thing. His legacy will be that he took those children and raised those kids, amazing. And Peggy too, and she's just hurt and she's angry and she cannot, this is all she's ever known, right? I mean, she's not going to go against, she's not going to break the thin blue line. And I get that, but she, she's just latching all of her hatred onto Karen. She gets to the hospital right after she gets that call. She's talking to Karen on the phone on the way to the hospital. What's going on? What's going on? She's like, you left him there? You left him at a party? How angry she was. Like, he's a grown ass man. He wanted to stay. I didn't want to go in there. Horny Higgins is in there and weird texting me. I'm like, it's too awkward. I said, why are we here? What are we doing? And he wanted to go in and see what the hell was going on. Maybe he wanted to talk to Higgins a little bit and talk and turn to something else. I don't know. But, Sweet Peg is like, she's hurt. And she'd rather just have Karen to focus this all on because she can't bear the idea of seeing what might be the actual story. And it's overwhelming. It's too much. But what happens if 12 people say she's not guilty? Are all 12 messed up? It's like, no. At that point, she's got to say, it's gonna hit her. And she's either going to be as stubborn as a mule and lock in and say, absolutely not. I refuse to even open my mind to it. And I would understand that. I mean, you don't know how people think and what it's hard. Yeah. She does not want to face this. Don't you feel for Peg? You got to. You can say whatever you want about Hank, and you can say whatever you want about Bev, and you can say whatever you want about MSP and the Commonwealth and Canton PD and Devers and Kelly Dever, all these people. Whatever you want. Alberts, Jen. But Peg O'Keefe is just a hurting woman, and she just knows what she's clinging to. She's clinging to her guardrails. She's clinging to what she believes, her value system, and she's suffered so much loss. This is all she can do. My heart breaks for me too. My heart breaks for the O'Keefe family. You know, they're hurting, man. KCL, I'm with you. Oh, yeah. No parent should ever endure what Peggy has been through. But we need justice for John. Yeah, in spite of you, in spite of Mom. I understand it. Not an innocent woman's expense. Not at an innocent woman's expense, Billy. Yeah, absolutely. 100% no. You know, it's interesting. You can't choose who your kids love. Every parent knows that, right? Everyone. I got 3 daughters. I'm not going to, you guys probably have kids too. Have we loved every one of the boyfriends? No. Do we want to pull the guy aside and be like, listen to me, you putz, get up out of my house. Do not walk in here. Does that make them dig in harder the other way? Yeah. Boys are a little easier. I think my mom might have. My mom cannot. She's dropped a few back in the day. Yeah, my mom has said, you would love my mom, folks. Oh my God, you guys. You would love Jody Bush. She is an absolute truth seeker. She's so blunt, it's unbelievable. Oh. Hypnotized. I don't know. We don't love all the boyfriends. You got that right, Billy. That's true. Okay, come on, Bev. Come join me. We'll be right back, says Bev. She's waiting it out. It's 3:25. Happy Father's Day, Billy. Oh, thank you. I would like to be watching the U.S. Open on Sunday with my old man. He was a terrible golfer. And he was a self-loather, which I love too. Every time he hit a shit shot, he would be like, God, you're terrible. Oh, man. I said, Dad, you got to be nicer to yourself. It's a very difficult sport. We'll say this. The Bushman's game is very strong. Let me drop a couple of names here. I beat Ari Emanuel, the big agent, Hollywood agent, Big Ari. He wanted an indie with me in a foursome last Saturday. Closed him on 16. And then my sponsor, Hot Mics, is sponsored by LA Golf. Their CEO is Reed Dickens. I call him the broken ATM machine. Like every time I play him, just zing, 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 zing. It's out of control, spitting hundreds all over the place. I give it to my girlfriend. I say, honey, here you go. Get your toes done. Mani-pedi, tip everybody in the room. Have yourself a hell of a weekend. Once again, this one's on Reed. Billy played with Trump. I never played with Trump. I did go to his wedding in 2005, and he had a golf outing before the wedding. And I played, and I can say this, I didn't play with him, but he played through me. My group was in front, every group, he just played through every group. He had a golf cart that went like 40 miles an hour, and everyone else had a governor and topped out at 7. And so without even telling anyone, we're out in the fairway. He would just, boom, Trump would hit, come right up to us at 40 miles an hour, hit the brakes, hi, boom, hit his second shot and keep going. Never like, can I play through? It was just understood.
Oh, I thought you told a story about his turbo golf cart.
Yeah, his turbo golf cart. I did. I'm telling it again for those who don't know. Bev has to be gone by 4:00. Yeah, Bev's got to be gone by 4. Just so pleasant to be around. I want to watch your paint dry. I would just laugh. I want to watch your paint dry. Yeah, I got painters. Is that what Bev's doing? Getting us to 5:30 today, you think?
Refresh your court TV and mute it.
Okay.
Go live.
Jury is now deliberating the fate of Karen Reed. Okay.
There we go. Now you're muted. Okay.
We are deliberating. We are deliberating. This should be over then.
You don't have to pause it, Billy. You can just keep it muted.
This is unbelievable. Let's take a look at this. We're officially in deliberation. Yes, we are. Do you still talk to Trump? No. No, I haven't talked to him in 10 years. Last time I spoke to him, he was a guest on my show, my daytime show. Yeah, never through all the drama. No. You should get your mom on, Billy. Oh, yeah, you know what? So I'm going to move Hot Mics to Maine this summer. We're going to set up the studio up there in Maine. I think I'm going to get Mom on a regular basis to join with commentary because she just cannot help herself, which is fantastic. But we're going to do, we're not going to stop. You know, I quit television, right? So I'm done with extra. So in September, I'm going to be full-time Hot Mics. Let me tell you what the plan is for Hot Mics. It's, we want a partner that lets me go 2 hours a day live. I like tonnage. You know what I mean? The once a week podcast thing, that's not for me. I go stir crazy. I need action. So we go, 2-3 hours a day, every day. We're approaching all kinds of people. What is that? Oh, try later. All right. So let's, we want to go full time on that. I texted Krowski and I told him to come in. Maybe we'll entertain the crowd here with a full-blown debate. Go to war with Krowski. That's right. I'm gonna battle this man. Battle this man hard. What y'all doing? Getting ready for Friday cocktails? Going out for the weekend here? And Daily Live is right. That's right, Marissa. Daily Live. Melanie Little is a co-host. Yeah. Melanie and I have a mutual friend, one of our producers at Extra. Anyway, but we tracked her down because she's cool. Yeah. I watched Days of Our Lives for 30 years. Why don't you do an interview with Adrian Zucker? Ariane. Isn't it Ariane Zucker? Lovely lady. Trump paid attention to on the bus fiasco with you. I remember her. Yeah, nice person. She had nothing to do with the whole thing. Oh, poor Peggy. Yeah, people are feeling for Peggy. That's, I know. She's a mom and she's hurting, so we don't want to, she can't see straight. Yeah.
Full screen.
Ah.
That's what.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
Hello,
Thanks
Ashley.
so much for being with us. Let's turn now back to Dedham, Massachusetts, where we.
Okay. There she goes. There she goes.
Full screen button, the square button.
It's unbelievable.
There's simply
Nike? 808 Fiverr freelancers have worked with Nike. Designers, developers,
unfavorable inferences solely from that fact. There you believe or disbelieve a witness or what an exhibit purports to show, and the importance to give any testimony or other evidence is entirely up to your own good judgment. The evidence consists of the testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits that were introduced in this trial. You will have those exhibits with you in the deliberation room. In addition, as you heard during the trial, the prosecution and defendant agreed that certain things are true. Therefore, you must accept those things as true. There are some things you have heard about that have not been introduced into evidence, such as previous testimony of witnesses, police reports, autopsy and accident reconstruction reports, and perhaps other reports. You may naturally wonder why neither side has introduced any of them into evidence. The answer is that under our rules of evidence, such reports usually may not be admitted, although the parties may refer to them for certain limited purposes while questioning witnesses. So you should not hold it against any party that you do not have them, and neither should you speculate on what they may or may not contain. Similarly, as you review the exhibits, you may find that some information has been removed because it is not relevant. Please ignore that and don't try to guess what may have been removed from there. Any information that you may have read, heard, or seen about the case outside of the courtroom is not evidence. My instructions to you and any other comments I made, the lawyer's opening and closing statements and any comments they made, are not evidence. If the lawyers or I made any comments during the trial, those comments are not evidence, and you must base your verdict only upon the evidence. In an interaction between a lawyer and a witness, you may consider only the witness's testimony as evidence. Answers that I struck from the record and told you to disregard are not evidence. Only the testimony of the witness, that is, their answers to the questions and the exhibits, are evidence. Finally, on this topic, if one of the lawyers or I refer to some part of the evidence and that does not coincide with your own recollection, it is your collective recollection which you are to follow in your deliberations. It is important to remind you folks that the verdict cannot be based on emotional reaction or sympathy for any person or side of this case. Certain of the testimony and exhibits may have provoked an emotional reaction in all of us. You may feel sympathy for the family of Mr. O'Keefe, and you may feel sympathy for
Wonder what that's, how about that scene outside the court right now? It's got to be wild. It's got to be wild out there. Short break while the jury enters. Oh my God, can you believe the drama here? It's just incredible. This is crazy. I know Bev's crushing us right now, but what are we going to do after this? Everyone's going to be in a tremendous, it's going to be like a hangover everywhere. But you know what? I mean, let's just say the right thing should happen. And then everybody go on. Let's hope we never do this again. Bridget, banana hammock. Travel Fairy, you are very funny, but I gotta say, that is terrible. She does have a little Brigitte Macron vibe. You know, I don't believe the whole, thing about Brigitte, honestly. All right. That's funny. I gotta say it. Hold on. Take a little break here and we're gonna get this thing lined up.
Oh, here we go.
All right, here we go. I'm texting Joe Krowski, who absolutely
Peter.
sure that she's.
Man, I wanted to see where you were while this was all going down.
There's my boy from Lynn, Steve. He's talking to Peter Murphy. Poor Peter. Oh my God. How can Paul O'Keefe be in the courtroom every day? Doesn't he have a mortgage? I don't know. I think when it, he's a smart guy. That's interesting. He's not Peg. I mean, he's not like a mother who only wants to believe one thing. I mean, mother's love is, man, gotta say, it's just a lot. Did Ducey ever respond? Yes, Ducey did respond. Peter Ducey did respond. He said he's gonna ask.
I'm texting
the president.
Peter.
Mike's on. Yeah, what do you want? You can text.
Peter Murphy's right out front. I'm texting him the StreamYard
Let's
link.
get a look at the front of the courthouse.
He's going to try we just don't, first time, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Good.
So let's see what happens. Hold on one second.
Yeah. We need you covering Brian Kohlberger. Yeah, this is taking the life out of me. He lives with mommy and daddy, and he's not smart. Oh, Paul has agreed. Oh, took the GoFundMe money for the kids. Paul, I don't know if we need to hit Paul right now. Honestly,
Peter
it's not what
Murphy.
this is about justice for
Billy,
Karen Reed. Oh my God. Yeah, they just went to deliberate 30 minutes or so. This should be over. This deliberation should be over.
I feel like you're not at the same spot as I am.
All right.
Ultimately gotten rid of altogether.
Let's look at some Alan Jackson here.
Pet.
This was one of the great closings. Let's get
Unless they had something to hide. Michael Proctor wasn't interested in that either. And recall the group chat with the Alberts and the McCabe's. They were getting their story straight. Matt McCabe, whom the Commonwealth did not call in this trial.
Down. He intoxication. And they're going to put themselves in her shoes in that car. And if the
Peter, can you see me? Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
All right, Peter, we got to hold that camera nice and steady right there. You outside the courthouse?
I can turn around so you can see the courthouse, district court. I'm not in front of the Superior Court. There's a couple of hundred people up there.
Retired.
I can go that way.
All right, retired.
You want me to go that way?
Yeah, go that way. I want to see the crowd. I want to know how many people are out there. If you can show that, that would be amazing.
Okay, let me do this. I'm going to turn the phone around and start walking, and I'll show you kind of the landscape for the next 30 seconds.
That sounds
Is that
good.
all right?
Yeah, it sounds
all
good.
Right.
The great Peter Murphy right there, retired Canton PD officer, 30 years on the job, retired as a sergeant. He's out front. I bet it's quite a scene.
Okay. Here's the buffer zone here. That's why everybody's sitting here with their Karen Reed support and memorabilia. I'll show you some of it as I walk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry about the bouncing here. I've got a 75-pound Labrador pulling me up the sidewalk.
Well, I hope that dog doesn't go missing, Peter, if you know what I'm talking about. That's a dog we need to keep. I'm sure you love. Nobody rehomes a dog. How many years have you had the lab? 6? Don't say 6.
The dog is 8 years old.
Oh,
but
don't
the
rehome
dog doesn't know it yet.
Hey, nobody rehomes a dog after, after 8 years.
All right, let me walk a little further. I'll bring myself back to you. I'll grab a little ground here. With me, you're probably getting seasick from me jostling the phone around.
Nah, we never get seasick from you, Murphy. You're a good man.
All right, I'm coming into
Peter told me this
the
week,
hot
by the
zone.
way, yeah, he told me he's been doing a juice cleanse, and that's why he's lost 9 pounds. He looks terrific.
we had quite a night the other night, wouldn't you say, Billy?
Yeah, we did. We
All right.
absolutely did.
All right, I'm going to turn this around and give you a profile here. You're going to see the infamous Registry of Deeds, and you're also going to see the gold dome on the Superior Court. You ready? I'm going to go slow here for you, okay?
Let's see what's going on, Peter.
Stand
yeah,
by.
show me.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So,
what a
you can
beautiful,
see-
I mean, look, it's a great New England town, isn't it? It's absolutely beautiful.
It's got
I
a
love
lot
it.
of history here.
Lot of history, a lot of good things that happen in that area, gotta say.
Yep. So you can see, am I panning all right for you here?
Yeah, they got the Canton PD out today directing traffic, and boy, it must be an awkward day to be a cop.
They got the leaf blower out blowing the heat off the pavement.
Oh boy, it's hot, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty warm. Actually, a nice
Peter.
breeze just came up. But I'm gonna swing you now towards the Superior Court. You'll see some news cameras, and this is where Karen has been getting out of her Uber car or her limo, and this is where she will come at the close of the day if they recall her for any kind of verdict, I guess.
Peter, you gotta take me over to see those ladies. Take me over to see those ladies on the corner. I want to say hello to those nice ladies in their seats.
Okay, one of them's actually in a walker, so I'm going to bring you over. Okay, hold on.
And I'll tell her, hello, dear.
1 second. Do you want to say hi to Billy Bush? Hot mics.
Oh my God.
You were just talking about him.
Interview you and he had
Oh,
on YouTube.
Billy, how did you know? These ladies watched our interview the other night.
It was really
Hey,
good.
hello, darling. How are you?
He's saying, hello, darling. How are you?
Good, how are you?
We're doing fine. I see you got your pink on out there in support. Get her a water, Peter. We lost him. And she's so cute.
All right, I put you full screen until he comes back.
Oh, see that woman? She's probably 80 years old. She's got her wraparound glasses on, and she's watching Peter. He's a good man, Peter. You can tell. You know what I mean? Like, you look at a Michael Proctor, okay, and you look at a Peter Murphy. Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book Blink. In a blink of an eye, you know what somebody is, right? Especially women. Women, if you're standing in a bar or a public place and Michael Proctor comes into your orbit, ooh, something washes over you, right? You feel like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And then like a Peter Murphy comes and all you want is a hug. You know what I mean? Energy. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Trying to get him back.
It's really, Murphy's the best. You know, if he calls back, he calls back. But we're all waiting for the deliberation. Nick Rocco right here. Karen's, this guy's done a great job, Nick Rocco. I mean, this guy's, by the way, have you seen Nick Rocco on Court TV live? He's in there with Vinny and, they're doing they're breaking it down afterwards. This guy owns a hair salon. He should have been a lawyer. My cousin Rocco should be a new movie. He destroyed every lawyer on that set. I mean, the guy knows more. He's terrific. I can't go on camera right now. I'm with everyone, says Nick. All right. Who's everyone? Maybe he's with...
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, we got Peter Murphy's calling in. You can knock him. You can re-rack him if you want, Steve, because we love Peter. He's entertaining. Yeah, here's one. Look at this. I feel people's energy. Most people are all right, but every once in a while, someone doesn't pass the sniff test. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Tell him to tell Karen we are praying. Oh, I will. Everybody in the chat section here wants you to tell Karen that they're praying for her, all right?
Oh,
period.
I think I
tell
got
her
one.
the Bushman said no.
Bill, look up.
There he is, Peter. Oh my God, my good man. There you are.
It says, yeah, it has.
Hi.
See?
Am I back?
You're back.
You're back, baby. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and
He's
clear.
so adorable.
Here are these two lovely ladies that said they were just talking about our last show.
Hello.
Can you see them?
What are your names?
This is Billy Bush. Hot mics. This is, yeah.
Peter, can you turn the phone so I can see if she's sideways? I want you to just turn the phone so everybody's there you go.
He told you he was going to get in touch with Trump.
Yeah, she said that we talked about getting a hold of Trump, Billy.
We're getting a hold of Trump. Tell her that I talked to Peter Ducey, the Fox News Channel reporter, and I asked Peter to please ask the president if the feds are going to get involved and look into this, and he's going to get back to me, okay?
Did you hear that? Billy talked to Peter Ducey, who is the White House liaison, and he's going to talk to Trump on our behalf.
This is great. This is so much better than anything I've ever done in television.
Where are you from, ma'am? North Attleboro.
Peter's our street side reporter now. Mike.
This woman is from North Attleboro. She grew up in Dedham.
Peter Murphy. Yeah, there's a hot Mike's honk right there, if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. How do you do, sir? Here, let me give you a quick shot of what's left here. I'm waiting further developments, okay? You can see all right here as we go?
Peter's going full reporter voice. I like that. In further developments, we'll be reporting back. Peter, I want you to say this. It's a shit show in front of the courthouse. Details at 11. Try that.
It's a shit show in front of the courthouse. We'll get back at 11.
It's going to start with Peter Murphy here.
Peter Murphy reports. Peter, I got to say something. You might become my Boston bureau chief. I really, this is good. I'm going to get you sponsored by Duncan.
Okay, here's another little pan of the crew.
Yeah, tell everybody we said hi. Oh, look at this. A lot of traffic downtown. People are trying to get through. They all know what's going on. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a circus atmosphere here. And I'm going to say this to you, Billy. 99.9% of the people that have come by me, I have said to them, what's going to happen? And they said the jury will be back by 5, not guilty.
Yeah.
I'm on a live stream, sure. Go ahead.
You think are people thinking the verdict is coming in today?
Yes, they are. Everybody said they've had enough. The jury's had enough. And I didn't hear the charging argument. One of the comments was the judge said to the jury, and one of the allegations by the prosecution is that Ms. Reed did assault and beat John O'Keefe. Where does the word assault and beat coincide with hitting him with a motor vehicle?
Assault and beat John O'Keefe? Oh, so the bruises on, who said that? On his eye and the back of his head is done by a 103-pound woman?
Well, that's the story, Billy. I did not hear it firsthand. I'm looking across the street right now at Turtle Boy. Do you want to talk to Turtle Boy?
If you're going to be my bureau chief in Boston, I need receipts, Peter.
I know. That's what I said. I don't have receipts, but I had a woman. I had a woman get unhinged saying, "Oh my God, where did this language come from?" I'll come back to you, ma'am.
The mystery of the upside down pineapple when we return with our Boston bureau chief, Peter Murphy. The upside down pineapple.
This is Kathy, and she wants to say thank you for talking to her.
Thank you very much.
Kathy, we love you. It's wonderful to see you.
Reed.
Free Karen Reed says, okay. That's a woman.
You're okay, Mary.
Did she
know
say
people in
something
high
she shouldn't
places.
have? Kathy, did she say a bad word?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Did Kathy say a bad word?
I got to look around before I get say it. She said, "Free Karen Reed." We're in the hot zone. We can't talk about it or say anything or have any memorabilia.
Oh, that's right. But you can wear a pink colored T-shirt.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Oh, she's so cute, Kathy.
She is great. She is great.
Oh.
What do you think is going to happen here today, Mary? How do you think the outcome is going to be? Kathy, I'm sorry.
Now. He's reporting.
Yeah, before tonight and not guilty.
She says before tonight and not guilty. No.
Is that Chloe?
Oh my
God, yes, that wasn't Chloe.
Oh, they thought that was funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Billy Bush, hot mics on the show.
We got a man on the street.
I got a Boston bureau chief. I got a man on the street. He's everything that you want him to be and more. And you know what else? That woman right there, Kathy, she's like Farmers Insurance. She knows a thing or two because she has seen a thing or two.
Have you followed this case from the beginning?
Honeybee says Peter's a natural.
From the
Let me
beginning,
ask you a question.
Followed this case.
Kathy, hey, Peter.
Yes, sir.
Ask Kath.
Go ahead.
Kathy's lived, I'm guessing Kathy's lived in the area a long time, and she's probably had good interactions with the police. Why has she come to the conclusion that she has come to?
Yeah.
Okay. So Billy has said that you've probably lived in the area and had interactions with the local police. What sort of a realization have you come to?
I never had trouble with the Dedham police.
Okay. What's your general opinion of police in general, having watched this case? And
Not so great.
Not so great. Okay.
But you make it better.
I make it better.
Yes, you do.
Well, I like to believe that 99% of the police departments and police officers are solid people.
Now, I have a lot of police officers in my family.
Here he goes, guys driving by, yelling "Free Karen Reed." What a scene we have out here.
We have a lot of policemen in our family.
She says she's got a lot of police officers in her family.
And they all support Karen.
And she said that all the police officers in her family support Karen.
Wow, you hear that? There's Kathy, been around a long time. She said all of the police in her family support Karen Reed. That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing, Peter. That's amazing. What a beautiful lady. Ask her if she's single. Ask her if she's single.
Are you single? He's asking, not me. Not that I shouldn't, no worries.
No,
now I got myself in trouble.
Your wife is going to kill you, Peter. At least it's not some 35-year-old tart.
Right. Actually, Billy, my wife is out in Manhattan Beach with my daughter right now.
Oh, really? She's down the street from me.
Yeah, just down the street from you. Yep.
All right. Well, when the cat's away, be a good boy, Peter. You're allowed to have. She caps you at 2 drinks. You can have 3 while she's gone.
Hey, all I know is I keep my keys in the pocket of the ignition. I don't put them in the bowl.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Peter Murphy on fire today from Dedham, Massachusetts.
Can't remember that was.
Yeah. This is unbelievable.
Another peek of the crime scene here.
Yeah, look at all these people out there. They're all waiting for the verdict, which we got to keep our eye on here.
It's
Make sure
come. They want to go home for the weekend.
These people want to go home for the weekend. It is going to be uproarious if we. They're now deliberating. What are people saying out there? Are they all waiting for this verdict, huh, Peter?
Yeah, there's people here from. I just talked to 2 people from England. They flew in specifically for this culmination of the trial. Wonderful people. They said they've been watching it from England, and they're going to stay into Monday if it takes till they get a verdict.
Isn't it amazing how many people have come from all over the world? I mean, even in the chat section, I'm talking, check in. International people, where are you? I got people from Ireland we're talking to. We got people, there was someone from Finland. We got people from Australia. Oh. Who's that?
Billy Bush! Billy Bush!
Now he's just yelling my name.
Hey, I got Aiden coming over to say hi.
Oh,
you want to talk to Aiden Kearney?
I do. How do you get out of the courtstream?
He landed Aiden.
Here he is. I'll hand the phone to him.
Let's get the turtle boy.
He landed Aiden. Live stream with Billy Bush.
Turtle boy.
What's up, Billy?
Turtle boy, my brother. What's going on? How'd you get out of the courthouse? Bev let you sneak out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're on break right now. Juries are deliberating, so everybody's just out here. There's like thousands of people here, man. It's like alive. Everyone's here supporting Karen Reed. They just picked a really good jury, in my opinion. And, I think they have like an hour or so more that they can deliberate today. So they might as well just do it today. It started on April Fool's. It should end on Friday the 13th. Amen.
Oh my God! Started on April Fool's, ends on Friday the 13th. Holy shit! This is unbelievable. Poetic. How
If those
poetic.
jurors are smart, they just went in that room and they probably looked at each other and they're like, "This is all bullshit, right? Like, let's just. I don't want to come back next week. Let's do this. Like, we're gonna have the same decision next week. She didn't do it, obviously. So let's get the hell out of here."
Let me ask you a question. Someone mentioned earlier that the jury it looks like a bunch of Gen Zers. Tell me when you look at that jury, like what kind of people are we looking at here?
Very
Again
young.
and again. Shop for us and more at honeylove.com.
Some of the older jurors were eliminated, but like there's one kid that looks like he's like 20, and I look at him and I'm like, that kid's not putting someone away for life. No way. Another kid, several of them are under the age of 30. There's two women in the front row who are my favorites. One of them's pregnant. The other one, they're both probably 30 years old, young 30s, and they just you can tell by looking at their faces after a couple months that they're not going to acquit. They're not going to convict Karen Reed. They're going to acquit her. So.
Wow. So they're all mostly young people. So which makes me think every time Bev says stay off social media. I mean, that's really hard to do, right?
She always tells them to be careful with their social media use. You can't be careful with your social media use with this. You go on social media, it consumes you. So, I just have put it this way. If they come back today, it's 100% chance not guilty, right? 100%.
100%.
If they're even remotely considering guilty, that would take a lot of convincing. If it comes back today, it's a guarantee not guilty. But otherwise, I would say probably Monday would be not guilty. That would be my guess.
Okay, so we're looking at the clock. It's currently 4 o'clock. Just struck 4 o'clock right there.
Yeah.
How long do we think is 5:30 the deadline? Do we have an hour and a half?
5:30 was the deadline. I thought they said so. She's giving them an hour and a half. Like you said, if she just shut up with those jury instructions, or just ChatGPT'd it or something, I don't know. She could have got it. We could have been done by now, but she just droned on. And I don't think a single juror was listening. They were just zoning her out because she's so monotone and boring, and they already know what they're going to do, so they don't even need to hear this whole thing,
Turtle Boy with us right now. Congratulations on your victory yesterday, right? How are you feeling?
Oh, thank you. Good. I mean, it was a minor misdemeanor right across the street. Beat it. I got more charges to go, but I feel like it was like an omen, you know what I mean? It's just weird it happened the day before Karen Reed trial, comes to an end, so I just feel like it's a sign, and it has to end sometime. It's a beautiful day. Thousands of people out here. Everybody's happy. It would just be the perfect way to end this on a Friday,
Oh, by the way, think about Father's Day on Sunday, right? I mean, Karen's dad?
For Bill Reed, that would be the ultimate Father's Day gift, not making this his last trip home from Dedham forever.
I look at that man. I see him. He's just hanging in there. He wears his suit every day. He's a dignified, nice guy. You know what I mean? He's a statesman. He's a citizen. Yeah, no kidding.
Everybody should hope that they're, that when their kids grow up, that they have the same kind of relationship with their father that Bill Reed has with his daughter.
No kidding. How are you doing? How's your family doing supporting you with people? You're out there. You're exposed. You're in the public.
They're good. I mean, I don't expose my kids to any of this. They don't know any of this stuff is going on. They're 7 and 10. They're too young to get dragged into this. So they just know I'm a guy on YouTube who people ask to take pictures with whenever we go out. And that's about it,
Do they call you Turtle Dad?
They don't. That would be kind of weird. But,
yeah. But you get hugs. I bet you get hugs from people when you walk around the area, all those nice people behind you.
Oh, yeah. There's been a lot of pictures today, let me tell you. So the kids are used to it. We make jokes about when we go out about how many people are going to ask to take pictures and stuff like that. So they're getting used to it. My daughter came home the other day. She's like, I guess they were asking, what do you do for work and stuff like that. And she's just like, my dad's on YouTube. That's all she knew how to say.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
But she's always busting my chops. I've been telling her, I'm like, I have 135,000 subs. She's like, that's it? Because she's like, the channels she watches have 5 million. She's like, that's not a lot.
Oh, my God.
How many you got? How many you got? None. So there's that.
Hey, tell me about, if you got a second, just, we were talking about Peg O'Keefe earlier, and a woman's been through a lot of loss, but I see this old stalwart sort of stubborn kind of woman in a way. She can't think possibly that something could be done like this by his own people in the in law enforcement, that this could never be the case. So
It's
she
too hard of a
directs.
pill for her to swallow that she's surrounded herself for the last couple of years with the people that did this to her son. She just can't accept it. And I get it. I get it. It's like it's a lot easier to accept this fantasy that Karen Reed did this and defied the laws of science and physics. It's a lot easier, I guess, for her to just kind of put her hands in, fingers in her ears and say, no, I don't hear nothing. And because that's the only way that you can still be in that position.
How's Karen's energy when you see her? What's going on? I mean, I thought Alan Jackson was unbelievable. When I compare the closings, I thought, they both took the full amount of time, but Brennan was he said basically he talked about data 10 different ways, and I thought Alan Jackson he kept it interesting. You know what I mean? Like it was a different topic every second. He told an amazing story. It was one of the best closings I've ever seen. What was the like in the room?
He had the jury eating out of the palm of his hand. They were so interested in everything he was saying. All those visuals. He didn't do anything like that last. It was a completely different closing. When you get rid of the conspiracy stuff, which they've gone this time, it's a lot easier of a sell. When you just convince them, showing the science, showing the experiments, the data, that this could not have happened. There was no collision over and over and over again. And they didn't even have a rebuttal for that. He didn't even bring up Judd Welch's Blue Man Group test. That wasn't even brought up. He brought up ham sandwiches and signal messages and limo rides, but he didn't bring up the Blue Man Group because he knows it's ridiculous. And at the end of the day, either Karen Reed hit it with the car or she didn't, and it's quite obvious. I think he's just going through the motions at this point, and I think he's accepted reality.
Are people surprised the Bryans no Bryans, no Michael Proctor, nobody?
Yeah, I mean, that was a ballsy move not to call any of those people. It's a bold move. But, I think it worked out in the end, although we would have liked to see them. I think their absence spoke volumes. And I think that, just being able to point out, they pointed out all the misdeeds Proctor did, but they didn't give him a chance to talk his way out of it. So I think it was a good thing.
I'm looking at Joe Krowski. He's going to be coming in here in a minute, like soon. But he said her backing up 24 miles an hour with the gas pedal depressed 75% at 34 Fairview. At the same time, he stops moving for the last time, coupled with the phone battery temperature decreasing and her broken taillight leaves little doubt what happened. He said it's fully conclusive in that regard. Your response?
Then ask him, why didn't the Canton police find any taillight at 7 a.m.? There was none. When Lieutenant Gallagher was out there with his leaf blower, which he insisted was like the greatest tool ever invented, he found exactly 0 of those 47 pieces of taillight, despite the fact that only an inch or 2 of snow had fallen. It was bright sunlight. They videotaped the whole thing. There's no taillight there. If there was no taillight there at 7, how did it get there at 5? I'd ask him. And don't 24 miles an hour. I don't care what that stuff says. Get in your car and try to reverse 25 more. Try to go in reverse 24 miles an hour and hit a target. Try it. Give it a shot. I'll give him $1 million if he could do that. He can't do it. Joe Krowski is enough. Joe Krowski is Colin Albert's lawyer. His dad sits in court with Hanky every day. They represent the McAlberts whenever they get arrested. When I was assaulted outside Chris Roberts' pizza shop last year, Joe Krowski Sr., had defended the 2 people that assaulted me. So yeah, Joe Krowski's very biased. Let's just put it that way.
Turtle Boy, you're doing an amazing job. What are we missing? What are you feeling right now? Are you going to get back into the courtroom, or can you sneak back in?
I'm going to get back and just walk around amongst the people down here and thank everybody for coming out here and just feel the good vibes, keep people's, positivity up, and just, hopefully it comes today. If not, we come back here Monday, we do it all over again. Yeah,
Bev's going to head down to the Cape for a
she wants to open up her Cape house. Exactly. She's like, get me out of here. So
Aiden Kearney.
Thanks, Billy.
Picture you and I.
I love you. Thanks, Turtle Boy.
Live stream with you and I.
Thanks.
Billy, you got this?
Oh, look at that right there. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Look at that T-shirt he's wearing. Peter, wait a minute. Peter, what's on your T-shirt?
What's that?
Your T-shirt. Let me see the shirt. Oh, my God. The real and respectful men of Canton. Did you call Bev a man? The Bridget McCrone? Oh my God, Peter, that was incredible. Look at Peter. Peter, you're doing a great job as the Boston bureau chief.
The Boston liaison here.
You just landed the Turtle Boy interview. Hey, ladies, how you doing? They drinking beers? No.
You know Brandy?
Boston Brandy, nice to meet you.
Hey,
Guilty,
Boston
not
Brandy.
guilty. I'm giving it a half hour. Michael Morris,
Half hour?
it's done. It's over. Norfolk County will no
my God,
longer
the
be
accent.
controlled by criminals. You woke up a beast in all of us. We're not
Oh
putting
my-
up with it. We want a refund.
Let me ask you a question. Why? Why are you so passionate?
Yes, I
What-
am. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the bodies. I'm sick of it. Thank you very much. You know what I mean? We're not going to put up with it.
Yeah. What a scene. There's Turtle Boy right there taking pictures. Look at the selfies are flying. It's a scene out there. Boy, it's going to be a celebration or a...
Billy, just
I don't want to say it.
I'll ask you this. I just bumped into a former colleague of mine. She was a police officer, came on the job about the same time as me back in 1980. She's standing here beside me, and I asked her, do you want to talk to Billy Bush hot mics and convey what you think about this outcome today?
Yeah, beautiful.
You want to comment or want to ask
Yeah.
her some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want all the energy from outside.
All right. Okay. I want to introduce you to Elaine.
Elaine.
Hi, Billy.
Hi, Elaine. How are you? What are you feeling today? What are your emotions? What are your emotions, Elaine?
Long overdue, just waiting for the not guilty. It's about time we end the corruption and we end the travesty here. It's terrible.
What makes you so sure? Is there a particular point that makes you sure? Are there a couple? In other words, where do you draw the line?
I think in this particular case, that should be a definite not guilty. There's so much reasonable doubt, and I think that the defense actually went and stressed what reasonable doubt is. So I don't think there should be any question in any juror's mind if they're on the up and up and doing what they should be doing.
If there is a not guilty verdict, what do you think should happen next? Do you think people should just go away and let it recover and hope that the police, or do you think there needs to be some follow-up action? Do you think the feds need to come in? Do you think the governor needs to take action? What do you need to secure your community?
I think there should be more investigation. I think that we owe it to John O'Keefe to find out what actually happened to him. I would like to see something continue. Doesn't mean it will.
Billy,
Yep.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I've got some real valuable footage. Hold on, the Reeds just arrived.
Okay, let's see. This guy, I'm sending him a check. What is your Venmo? Okay. Oh, they're the Reeds.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have the reads.
Maybe they got word that there's a verdict coming.
Did Nick Rocco text you by any chance?
Yeah.
Because
Alex,
Nick Rocco has info.
Nick Rocco says I can't go on camera right now. I'm with everyone. He might be arriving. Peter, you know what Nick Rocco looks like? He might be getting out of that car.
I didn't see him yet. I saw
All right, so who's getting out of the car, Peter?
Alessi, Alan, David, Alessi, Nathan,
the
brothers.
verdict.
I saw the
Coming back.
Reeds get out, Bill and Jan Reed.
Really?
Yep, they're all walking into the
Circumstances
courthouse.
at the time she acted.
Wow.
Then you must determine.
Okay, the jury is deliberating, but why are all the lawyers outside?
They're all coming. They're all going into the courthouse, Billy. I mean, I don't know. I didn't
Why
think
did they
they'd return
leave?
unless
Maybe
there was
they've
a
been
verdict.
told.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, maybe they got a message that the verdict is in and they're getting back in.
Right. I mean, I don't know if they have to come back if there's a question or not. I don't know.
No, they would be
Okay.
coming back in because the verdict is probably coming out. There's a decision, and if there's a decision, that decision is not guilty.
This is Billy Bush. I'm being told that if there's a question from the jury to the judge, that the defense has a right to be here.
Oh, okay. All right, that's true. So if the jury has a question about anything procedural or something, they can.
That's what I'm being told. Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you can
the
see how
defense needs to
quickly
be in there.
you can see how quickly the crowd
Oh,
migrated.
Nick
this way
Rocco's
as
in the
soon as-
chat somewhere. Someone
I
said.
got it.
Find him.
He just said they're coming back. He just said they're coming.
Let's get Rocco engaged. He's in the.
He's saying it's to Nick Rocco's saying it's to dismiss the jury for the day, that they're not going to have an answer.
Oh, okay. Nick Rocco said that they're being They're going to dismiss the jury for the day, Peter.
Oh, Court TV has them walking back immediately. If you go live to Court TV.
All right, let's go back live and see what's happening.
Whether under the circumstances, the indictment charging
Okay,
manslaughter
everybody's
while
going
operating a
back
motor
in.
vehicle under the influence of liquor. And there are lesser included of.
I got you. All right, we're keeping an eye on it. I did. Holy mackerel. Yeah, there goes everybody in. Judge, it's not up to Karen Reed to prove she's innocent. The jury's deliberating. Peter, Nick Rocco told us that that they're being called back in because they're going to let the jury go for the day.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
That's what we're hearing. So give it a minute, but we'll know in a second here.
Okay. All right.
But that's not good. They should go all the way. They should go to 5:30.
I think it's safe to say that the change in plan, she had originally said she'd let it go to 5:30.
Yeah.
And now it's 4:12, and she wants to dismiss him unless somebody's got an emergency in the jury pool. I'm of the opinion that she should let them control what time they leave if she gave them till 5:30. My opinion.
Yeah, they better not. She better not be seen out and about, in the Cape, hanging out and having fun tonight.
I
Peter,
hear you, man.
Peter, I got to say, you've got an enormous amount of fans. People are loving your work here. You're doing a great job.
Hey, listen, we've only got one mission here, and we're going to see it through all the way. We've been here for almost 3 years, and we ain't got no quit. And thank you for all your coverage and enthusiasm in this case and calling it as you see it, because I believe you see it solidly.
Well, thank you.
Could be a question, but again, had there been, we would have been informed by our producers on the ground. We would have stopped the clock.
I don't know what's going on here, though. I will tell you, this has taken an awful long time. These people out here have waited and waited. They'd rather do this on a Monday for some reason. Not me.
I mean, you saw what I panned earlier what it looked like. Let me do a slow pan for you now, just since the limo showed up. Hold on.
Yeah, let's see what's happening.
Hey girl, can you want to come hang out with me?
Oh, there's Karen's father going in. All right. Keep refreshing the screen here as we look. Oh my God. I got a feeling that Nick is right. Let's check with Nick again. They are sending the jury home for the. Nick just texted me that they're sending the jury home for the day. I think that's you're going to hear this any second now, but Peter, you're hearing it from me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna move back a little bit. It's getting way too loud for me to hear you. So let me just.
You might want to whisper to our friend Kathy to let her get a jump on the crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's going to be.
know.
I'm going to stay within camera shot when they come out. If you want me to do that, but.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
You trying to get by?
This is unbelievable.
Again, I'll pan the crowd as they migrate up here.
Yeah. This is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. How could she do this? It's only 4:15.
It looks like the breakup of a Lakers game here.
Yeah. It's 4:15. I don't know why they would send the jury home now.
Why would they do that?
Yeah. I don't know. With the jury, what are they going to? We're tired. We want to go. I don't think so. I don't know what the reason is, but she better give a good reason. Yeah,
especially where she said she was going to give them till 5:30 the other day, right?
Yeah, she said 5:30, but we'll see what happens. Boston Bureau Chief, the Boston Bureau Chief. You got conservative mama thinks you're doing a great job. They better not send him home.
Live, right here.
Hey, how you doing?
He's so cute. You got a lot of fans. Billy Bush is on there live. Oh, he's so cute.
Hi, ladies.
We love you.
There you go.
Welcome,
Now I got
welcome,
you in
baby.
trouble. Now I got you in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, you got me in trouble. Oh no.
Billy Bush, he's so cute.
You tell him I'm with. You tell him I'm with Kathy.
Oh, that's right. He already met a lady here in the walker wheelchair. He's with Kathy. You guys are a couple of minutes late.
Oh, too bad.
How long to not get a
Waiting.
to get
They
a
said they'll wait.
verdict? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, there's
This
some.
is unbelievable. Since there was no car hit, you must have quit.
That's actually right. Yeah, isn't that the truth? We saw
You know
that.
what I'm
We saw
saying?
that in our earlier years, didn't we? If the
We
glove
sure
doesn't
did.
fit, you must have quit.
And then OJ said he was going to go try and find the real killer.
That's right.
Oh, somebody said it's coming in on a 420. You know what that means, Peter? Don't tell me you know what that means, please.
I didn't hear the front part. The crowd's gathering. What was it?
Someone said it's coming in on 420. You know what that means?
Yes. Yes.
Don't do that.
Wow.
Out here in Los Angeles at 420, people take a hit of that weed, but not you. Not me. We got to keep sharp. Nick
Yeah,
Rocco
look at
said
this crowd. I'm
yesterday
going to show you the crowd again. Hold on. Here we go.
According to Nick Rocco, he said yesterday, Bev said that she was going to ask the court officer to ask the jury if they could stay until 5 or 5:30, but it was never confirmed. So maybe she's going to tell us the jury wants to go home. In that case, you know, we don't blame them. I'd like to see them stick it out. How long to get a not guilty verdict? There we go. Some old footage of Karen Reed right there walking in with Alessi and her team. Yeah, Andrea Fisher, we thank you, Andrea. It's 4:20 in 1 minute. Steph needs to get to the Oh. That's old footage you're seeing right there of Karen and Alessi. There she is with them horns.
Yeah, we've got a lot of celebrities here from different content writers and a lot going on.
A lot of influencers, they call them. Of course, LA, we've already moved on from influencers. You got to be a female founder now, but you got no chance of being that, Peter. Female founder. Another 25-year-old girl selling $1 billion makeup company. Okay, try your job, a career.
So you're hearing that she's going to dismiss the jury? That's what's going on inside?
Yeah, we are.
Well,
yeah,
I don't know what happened to that extra hour and 15 minutes, or extra hour and a half that she promised, but...
Yeah, she said that Nick Rocco told me that that she had asked the court officer to tell the jury, to ask the jury if they could stay until 5 or 5:30. Would that be okay? And they never heard back. There was never a confirmation. So maybe it's the jury that is saying we'd rather not.
Wow.
You know, maybe they want to go home. I don't know. It's only going to intensify over the weekend.
Wow.
If I were them, I'd stick it out. But, you know, maybe they're not in agreement. And if they're not in agreement, then we're looking at a hung jury becomes a lot more probable. You know, if it's, I'm surprised, you know, look, if it's going to be a not guilty overwhelmingly, that should have happened by now. Right? I can't imagine that anybody has any lasting questions. Oh, there's Krowski. How do we add him to the stage? Krowski!
Hey!
How are you, babe? Peter, stick with me. I'm going to get you right back, okay? I love Peter Murphy. He's doing a great job.
You know, Billy, as I pan the phone around here for your benefit in the
Okay. Can I hear him? All right. Krowski, can you hear me?
Sure can. Can you hear me, Billy?
Yeah, there we go. We good, Steve? All right, Krowski, everybody's out there in front. The great Joe Krowski here, criminal defense attorney. I will say that most people in the chat here are pro Karen Read. They think it's a not guilty. So I admire you coming in. You're not you're used to coming into enemy territory before. You're not with me because I'm I'm a journalist, but I do think that Karen, as you know, I think she's not guilty. Why haven't they come back with a verdict right now? Do you think that's bad news for Karen?
I didn't expect there would be a quick verdict in a case that took 32 days of evidence with this amount of witness testimony and the amount of exhibits that went into evidence. And, there's a lot at stake for both sides. So this would have been way too quick. But for anyone that thought it was going to be a quick not guilty, I think that after watching Brennan's closing argument, they might reflect on that.
Do you think, look, you thought Brennan's argument was great in what way? He seemed to focus on the data, and he did it over and over 10 different ways. Whereas, Alan Jackson actually walked through the entire process and told an interesting, it laid out an interesting case with hitting multiple different points. It seems that Hank tried to circle around the data only, and the data's not enough.
Yeah. Well, it's not data only. It's data. It's eyewitness testimony. It's the statements of Karen Read, and people have to stop saying that her statements aren't evidence. That's some of the most potent and powerful evidence you can have in a criminal trial. Look, Alan Jackson.
But Joe, what part of it? See, that when I hear them play clips of her on interviews, I see a woman who's legitimately concerned and open enough to be like, what happened? And curious enough. Someone who did something and committed a murder isn't open and questioning.
Well, you're thinking of murder. You're thinking of murder in the first degree. You're not thinking along the lines in the context of murder in the second degree, where even if she didn't know she had hit him, it still could be problematic for her. But let me get back to your initial point. Alan Jackson, he's a good orator. There's no mistake about it. But I think the problem here is the content. He promised a lot in his opening statement. And even though he doesn't have a burden of proof, he promised he would establish unequivocally through witness testimony that John O'Keefe went in the house. He failed miserably at that. He likened Trooper Proctor to a malignancy, a cancer who touched everything in this case. So I think it was a tactical mistake for them to come out that hard in the opening, but then not call Higgins or Albert or Proctor. All three of those witnesses were accessible to them. And when you listen to his closing, again, he's articulate. He's got skill. He's a showman. But he still did a closing as if that third-party culprit issue was a live issue at trial. There was no evidence to support it, so there was a logical disconnect. The data is the data. You would have to believe in an absurd coincidence to believe that Karen Read, and this was not challenged by Archer, backed up at least 60 feet with the gas pedal depressed at 75%, 24 miles an hour, at the exact time John O'Keefe stopped moving.
Have you ever backed up at 24 miles an hour?
What's that?
Have you ever backed up at 24 miles an hour in the snow?
Sure.
That's
you know who else backed up at 29 miles per hour without a problem? Archer.
Yeah. Look, Joe, the problem that we have here is, taillight in the snow. There was none.
Well, no, there was. There was plenty of taillight. There was taillight embedded in his clothing. There was a piece of glass found before Trooper Proctor even got out of bed. There was a hat under the snow stuck to the ground. There was a shoe against the curb. There was a debris field that was ultimately found. And remember, the state police CERT team, they were there before Trooper ever made his way over to 34 Fairview. So look, anyone can say conspiracy evidence was planted. I've argued planted evidence. I'm a criminal defense attorney. But I think for you to be able to sell it, you got to have a little bit of the ingredients before the jury. And other than just saying it, there is not a scintilla of proof that evidence was planted in this case. In the absence of evidence that it was planted.
What are you talking about? There's an enormous amount of evidence. I mean, it's like, by the way, there's missing evidence. You've got missing videotape for 42 minutes in the Sallyport garage. You've got You've got, Higgins in there with Berkowitz forever, and what they were doing in that garage. You've got the guy across the street and his missing video. You've got the Bryans dumping their phones and the SIM cards it's an enormous amount of problems with this.
So those are talking points and you're a talking head.
They're not talking points. They're legitimate problems.
But you haven't done the discerning look, the hard look into the actual evidence.
How can you jump to the conclusion that this woman backed up her car, hit this guy? How do you explain the lacerations on the eye and the cut in the back of the head with a 4-inch cut? That's not happening from a car.
Sure it is. So you had the periorbital ecchymosis, which happens in most fatalities when there's a brain injury. Remember, the evidence was he looked like he went 5 rounds with Mike Tyson. Even Dr. Lapisato conceded that's from the brain injury. The actual scratch in the nose, Karen Reed, in her own words, said she pulled a piece of glass out of his nose and blood went gushing. That glass was matched to the glass on the roadway that came from the Waterfall Bar and Grill. As far as the injuries, there's not a single injury on his lower body, but we know from Exhibit E from ARCA that is consistent with a side swipe impact where the lower knee would not show any.
You're asking people to think what are the chances that she backs up at 24 miles an hour and it's a perfect hit like this? You're asking people to follow what would be a 1 in a million chance to hit it just right. And then somehow it makes teeth marks across the arm. There's a pirouette. He ends up on the grass. You're asking people to basically believe in winning the lottery. Like what are the chances of that? It's near impossible.
If we're going to talk about what are the chances, and to be fair, she has no burden.
What are the chances he goes into a house and gets into a fight and a dog bites him? A lot higher than what we're talking about here with a side swipe with the Blue Man Group.
Well, if that was the case, then there would have been an expert to rebut the health data that showed that phone only moved for 20 seconds. If he got to the house, he would have got to the threshold and stopped, and there would have been no way to get him back. And think of the argument made by Brennan today. If he was attacked by a dog, that would have registered on the health data of that Apple phone. But if we're going to talk about what are the chances, tell me where ARCA was able to refute the text stream data. They're text stream data experts. They didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because they can't get around the 60-foot backup at 24 miles per hour. You want to talk about coincidence and chances. What are the chances she has a broken taillight, backs up 24 miles an hour right in the area where John O'Keefe was found with a debris field? It's 1,000,000 to 1. And remember the judge's instruction on circumstantial evidence. You go to the mailbox, you see mail there. You might not have seen the mailman, but it's a pretty reasonable inference that the mailman was there based on the mail in the mailbox.
Why doesn't anyone in your community agree with you?
Oh, many people agree with me, but where
are they?
Because the discourse there's no point in it anymore. It's become acerbic. It's become personal. No one's moving the needle for anyone anymore. So a lot of people have just tuned out the commentary. But I have conversations in courtrooms all the time, and there are defense attorneys like me that are aggressive, but are really outraged about some of the things that have gone on in this trial, including witnesses having drive-bys of their houses, John O'Keefe's mother being called the C word, things of that.
Joe, let me ask you a question.
Judge Cannone being attacked. Lawyers that know, real lawyers, know that she has bent over backwards to give the defense a fair trial in this case.
She's bent over backwards to give a fair. Cannone is trying to make up for the horrendous decision, by the way, when a jury came back. 2 counts in the first trial, unanimous by the jury, and somehow she forgets to include that, and we're trying all 3 again. That's a major mistake, don't you think, Joe?
Upheld by the Supreme Court of Massachusetts and the United States Supreme Court.
Joe, let me ask you this. Do you agree, obviously, that Michael Proctor is a disgrace and the man ran the worst investigation ever and deserved to be fired like a dog?
So, that's a compound question. I agree those texts were inexcusable, but I don't think there's a disconnect.
But what about not securing as a crime scene? You look at the contusions in the eye and the back of the head and saying, here's a guy in it, not wearing enough clothing, lying on a lawn right here. to not put any sort of tape up and consider it, and yet send a text and say, this woman's going up the river. Hey, don't worry about it. It's a cop who lives here. That's a problem. How about not going in at all into the house? Not once to just take a look around and ask a question. And Brian Albert not coming out. There's so many problems with this. And in the end, all you need is one person to say, yeah, bullshit, she's not guilty.
Well, look, you and I have discussed that before. In my opinion, had I represented Brian Albert, there is no way that the police would have had probable cause to get into that house, because the nexus, the location of the incident was right out by that flagpole. There was not a single witness out of, what, a dozen people that ever said John O'Keefe went in that house. Why is Karen Reed calling right away and saying, John, nobody knows where you are? Why didn't she drive the 5 minutes back to the house where she supposedly thought he went inside the house? Why at,
Because she's pissed off at him. She didn't want him to go in. It's all right. Just because she's pissed off doesn't mean she tried to kill him with her car.
She might not have tried to kill him. By the way,
she's not a great she's not an actress. I mean, like Nicole Kidman wouldn't have been able to pull that off and, to time her 53 messages and time it from screw you, John, you son of a bitch, look what you did, to ultimate concern when she wakes up from her 3-hour nap.
So 53 phone calls, not a single call to 911 or hospital, not a single call to 34.
Well, why would she call 911? She doesn't think he's dead.
Well, I mean, she told Kerry Roberts at 5 a.m. he was dead and got hit by a plow. Where did that come from?
She's worried about him. That's not in there.
That's in evidence. You've watched the trial, I hope, because you've got a strong
she's asking
opinion
questions.
on it.
Listen, you guys like to say that, the statements she makes, these are questions. She's wondering what happened to him. She pulls up on the lawn. She says, oh, she saw him right away. Of course she saw him. As much as it's as obvious when you see someone on the lawn as it is obvious when the plowman at 2 o'clock in the morning doesn't see him on the lawn.
Oh, come on. No one would base anything on the testimony.
Oh, is that Bev back? Oh, wait. Hold on. Bev might be back. Is she back right there, Joe? Are you seeing that?
I just saw her. So what I think's going on here, and again, anything that happens in that courtroom, people want to yell at Judge Cannoni. The jury's been working really hard. I'm sure they've told her on Friday they've got personal commitments, whether it be personal appointments, whether it be things with their families. She's not rushing anyone out of there early. I'm sure she's leaving it up to them. And the court officer will go and talk to them. And by the way, this benefits
they're going for the weekend.
Yeah. As a defendant, you don't want to force a jury to stay when they want to go home. And that means that they're not even close. If they were close to anything, they would have asked to stay for another half hour. So I think we can dig in and look for a long day Monday.
I think it's going to be, we'll see. And the fact that they haven't come back, would you say is not it wasn't an over and done and an easy decision. So it looks like it might be trending towards your instinct, hung jury?
Hung jury, but perhaps guilty on I think it's going to be guilty on the manslaughter.
You think so?
I do. I think they'll struggle with the murder. Remember, it was 9 out of 12 on the first trial on the manslaughter. And, so a lot of people didn't, and that's why they retold the defense. People didn't buy the conspiracy theory. And again, there's not a piece of evidence that supports a conspiracy theory. You can inject names, you can make accusations, but at some point when the rubber meets the road, you've got to have some modicum of evidence and proof to support it. Otherwise, the jury's not going to buy it.
Joe, I think let Bev go down to the Cape. I want you to have a beautiful weekend. We're going to convene on Monday. The jury goes home. So do we. We appreciate you weighing in as always. I'm guessing hung jury. That's where my instincts are now.
It's not the quick acquittal that some of the people that were delusional thought
Apparently
was coming.
not. Yeah, here comes Karen out of the courtroom. Here she comes. It looks like a live photo. I think it is live. Here she comes. There's Yannetti. There they all are. Joe, have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Let's just see how they conduct themselves on the way down the stairs.
Yeah, let's see what they say. Let's take a listen. All right, here we go.
Very well.
Let's talk about the closings. How do you feel it went? I mean, from your side?
I don't think mine could have gone better.
And what do you want to say? What does it feel like now that it's in the hands of the jury? What does it feel like? Can you just describe what that feels like?
I'm anxious. I'm ready. Just.
You said butterflies. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, 2 hours. Does that tell you anything, or how do you look?
Who knows? Who knows?
Any message for this jury? I mean, they've heard all the evidence, and you've heard it all. What's your message to the jury?
I don't have one.
Nothing at all.
No,
what do you plan to do this week? What do you plan to do this weekend?
I'm gonna try to sleep. I don't know.
Gonna try to sleep this weekend.
Any work that makes you feel confident that you can avoid a mistrial this time? Or is that a fear?
We've done everything we can. The instructions, the dirty slip. You've seen us fighting for it. Do you think you did enough? What piece of evidence do you think the jury
Wouldn't it be cool if every website felt like working in your favorite design tool? Framer?
Get to that bang.
Mr. Lemon said about what happened and using your words. Was he taking it out of context? Would you say?
I have no comments.
She has no comment. All right. She's getting her way to the SUV.
All right.
She's going to get in the front. She's in the front passenger seat. Her fans are all out there. Why are there no fans of the cops? Why is only Karen fans? Why are there old ladies in their 80s, Joe, who are out there, supporting Karen Reed?
I don't think a murder trial should have fans. Certainly, if it's a matter of public interest, the public has a right to be there. But I think a lot of people have found something. They're just using this case as a conduit. It's them against the system. Any grievances they've had in their personal lives, people that maybe felt that they've been wronged by their employer. Maybe they
I don't think so. I'm seeing a lot of senior citizens out there. I talked to a nice lady in her 80s, and she didn't have any grievances.
Yeah, it's also become a social event for a lot of people. I mean, they literally, if they were talking about the death of a man, and people are tailgating at a murder trial. So it's a free country; they can do what they want. But I think there's a certain amount of decorum that should go along and accompany something that befits the seriousness of a second-degree murder trial.
Okay. Joe, we'll have a nice weekend, like I said, and we'll if you don't, I really appreciate you jumping in, and we'll talk on Monday. Yeah,
let's talk Monday.
Okay, brother.
Okay, Billy.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Well, folks, such an interesting day. It's amazing that they went, that they're home, gone home for the weekend. I do think that's probably trending towards hung jury. Absolutely. Well, we did it. We've been going for quite some time, 3 hours, I think. Is that it, Steve? Or we've done more than that? I got to say, this has been, I'm shaking. I've been doing this so long. I haven't. Extra's a lot easier than this. Anyway, we will have lots to talk about on Monday. I want to thank the amazing Peter Murphy, our Boston bureau chief, Turtle Boy, for coming in. I want to thank Krowski right there. I know a lot of you people are pissed at Krowski. They call him Gonzo and the whole thing, but look, he's got his opinion, and he's not alone. I think there are people that they want to keep their mouths shut, but they might see it that way. I don't know. I definitely think that they're going to come back on Monday. I think it's going to be a hung jury. I think that's, I can't imagine unless somebody's going to take the weekend, come back, and if it wasn't an immediate thing, it's probably going to be something that's, and then from there, we'll see what happens. But again, that is a good thing for the state. I think it's a good thing for the Commonwealth and for the police. Not a good thing, but advantageous to them. So everybody has air cover, and they can say it was it was a bad jury. Justice wasn't served. Okay. Thank you for spending your Friday afternoon with us. Everybody go have a cocktail and enjoy your weekend, and we will be back here Monday. Appreciate you. Love you. And that's it.